Dude, thanks for the help on the truck today.
Oh, of course. My pleasure.
For those of you guys listening, Corey is with me for episode 21. We are in my studio.
21.
I've surpassed 20.
Wow.
I feel amazing. Wait, this might be 20. This might be 22. Yep, 22. Because Josh from Lucky's was 21, I think. So episode 20 was one that I just did by myself.
Yep.
But I was happy to surpass that. It's been a weird year. Haven't been able to travel as much as I wanted to. Have the amount of people I want on.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, so hitting 20 was actually, 20, I don't know, like what would it'd be like 26 is like half the year.
Yeah,
52
that's
weeks,
right. That's right, yeah.
So being halfway through the year and almost having that many episodes is pretty cool. Like
Yeah, it's pretty
one a
good.
week was the goal originally. Yeah, we just ate and now we're gonna be burpy. I can totally hear your throat like through the
Yeah, it always does that.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
We always end up when we record these, even when I do the solo ones, it's usually like in the evening when I've gotten like all the work I need to do throughout the day done. And yeah, as we're recording this, it's probably 7:00 now or
Yeah.
something. And
Yeah.
yeah, we always eat after we've been riding or working on the cars or something. We eat and then we get right into like a coffee, and that just wreaks havoc
Of course.
on like your throat. Even just trying to talk, I was clearing my throat and stuff, and then your stomach and your throat are just doing whatever they want to do, making all sorts of weird noise when you've got a microphone up to it. But yeah, we are, guys, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am on this right now. We are currently sipping Stokes' new pumpkin cold brew. And
Yep.
what do you think?
It's phenomenal.
You just tried it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I'm hooked. Like you were saying earlier, I'm going to have to stock up because it's a seasonal thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're gonna run this, like year round.
No.
They'll get inquiries to do so, that's for sure. But before fall's over, I'm definitely gonna stock up. I'm gonna like buy like half a dozen bottles.
You're going to stoke up.
Stoke up. Hey, cheers.
Oh, Prost.
Thank you for helping me with probably almost half of these episodes so far.
Yeah, of course.
It's
My
been
pleasure.
better. The solo ones are so hard to get through, and the first few solo ones I didn't video because I knew they were gonna. I don't know. I just they were hard enough for me to even just mentally get ready for, get prepped for, to try to have as much information like written down so I could fluently talk about things when I was alone. But I figured adding video to that was going to be even more difficult. So the first like 2 or 3 I did solo, I just did an audio upload. And episode 20, I figured that was a decent like milestone and decided to video record that one. So that's the only solo one I've got currently up on YouTube. But
I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk by myself. That's for sure.
it's so hard.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it.
And I appreciate everybody that reached out, because I think at the beginning or at some point during any of the solo ones that I've done, I've mentioned that. I'm like, just so you guys know, this is so hard. Like I get talking about things, and I feel like the second hour, I think episode 20 was the longest single or solo podcast episode I've recorded. And that was like an hour and 45 minutes, maybe almost 2 hours,
Yeah.
like alone. And I'm
pretty
sitting in this studio by myself. And I realized it was like the second hour I like broke into this like fluid motion where I was talking about things from my heart. Not that the beginning wasn't from the heart, but it was more or less from the notebook, like from
Right.
like topics I wanted to discuss and news I wanted to get out there or whatever. But then the second hour in, or the second half, I should say, of the episode, I was talking about like drive and being motivated and searching for inspiration and how I do that stuff and how I day to day like struggle with that, trying to find inspiration and motivation and having too many irons in the fire and trying to stay motivated on all of those things. And I didn't realize that until after the episode, and I had people kind of mentioning it. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
I had a few people actually message me and say, that episode 20 like really kind of like spoke to me, and I kind of breezed through it just to kind of proofread it, because at this point I just edit it and get it up.
Right.
But I listened to it a little bit more, and I realized I found that shift in the episode where I was like, oh, I actually got a little deep on the second half. And that's so hard to reach. I think, the more you do that type of stuff or this type of stuff, you kind of warm up to it and you get better at it for sure.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
yeah, the first couple episodes, I didn't reach that depth. And episode 20, I was able to reach it. So I can only imagine the more solo ones I may have to do or decide to do in the future. Like I've said before, if I end up starting a Patreon, I'll probably just do solo ones on there.
Yeah.
As a more personal podcast too. And I don't know what. I mean, it may end up being that I have you on more as we talk about different projects, stuff that we may not cover on, these podcast episodes. But I feel like if I started doing more solo ones on like Patreon or just in general, I'll be able to reach that depth soon in those
makes sense.
episodes. But yeah, 20, this is 22. I'm pretty sure 22 in, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, the pumpkin stoke, very, very stoked on that. That's so good. And Mason Gavin is the reason why I even like tried that for the first time. I already told you, I think when I was in Daytona for Turkey Rod Run and Simply Clean last fall, we all split a house. So I was staying with all the Chattanooga peeps, and Mason had stocked up on that stuff. And he's like, dude, you should try this. Cause he knew I was trying to drink coffee more stiff,
right,
with not so much sugar and cream in it. So I tried their not too sweet. It's still a black coffee, black cold brew, but it's got a little bit of, a little bit of sweetness. It still comes out black though. It's black.
And it's not as much punchy in the face as like straight up black
exactly,
coffee.
Yeah. So I fell in love with that one. Then I tried their chocolate one, as you already know. That one's unbelievable. And I actually saw a thing on Instagram. I think I might have tagged Stoke at some point or a few times on Instagram. And so anyone who tags them or hashtags them or something will pop up on my Explore page every now and then. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that like the week it was releasing, like last week or the week before.
Oh, perfect.
From their Instagram. And so when I went to my local grocery store, I made sure I went to that part of the grocery store looking for it. And sure enough, they had it.
Nice.
Should have bought 2 bottles even without trying it first.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm only down to like a quarter bottle left. And I'm like, yeah, now that everyone else has probably seen it there, they've bought it all out.
Of course. So
I'm hoping I can, get a few more saved in the fridge because it's so good.
Yeah.
But, oh yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, you guys got to get on this.
Yep.
And I don't care how white girl it is. It's so good.
Yeah, it's not even, like we were saying, it's not even as pumpkin flavored as like even the Dunk's pumpkin.
Yeah.
It's subtle enough to where it's...
And it's more of like a spice. It's more of like an actual pumpkin spice, I think.
So it's not as white girl.
I can't remember like who got me to first try the pumpkin. I don't remember. I'm trying to think because I remember it being like a funny story, but someone was like giving me a hard time and I was giving them a hard time. Like, I'm not wearing like buckled leather, like girl boots, or
Ugg boots.
Yeah. I give girls with style a little bit more credit.
Yeah.
I don't know what girls with Uggs would drink. More like lattes or something, or
I guess.
I don't know. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I tried it and I shut myself up real fast because I was like, yeah, that's really good.
Pumpkin is freaking amazing.
I'm doing that every fall now.
Yep.
Or late summer when they finally bring it out.
Everything pumpkin.
Yeah, so good. But yeah, so we worked on basically we just worked on my F-350 today, but we are in the middle of serious Ocean City, Maryland preparation.
Crunch time.
Like as of it is August 30th as we're speaking now. So what's August? January, February, March, April, May,
31.
June, July, August. Yeah, there's 31.
Yep.
Yeah. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I tried the knuckle thing. So like if you hold your knuckles together and you count from your left knuckle over, the knuckles are the long months and the valleys between the knuckles are the short months. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July and August back to back knuckles. They're 2 long months.
Okay.
And then September's a short month again. I don't remember when I was taught that, but I was a kid and I was like, and I find myself using it obviously as an adult. And I'm like, January, February.
I was today years old when I learned that.
It's useful because I'll always, some you remember, like March is my birth month.
Yeah.
Even though my birthday's on March 8th, I just know that there's 31 days in March. And obviously February is a leap year.
Yeah.
And
February is the short one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the knuckle thing has helped me out
Yeah.
quite fantastically. Yeah, we are 3 weeks away, like almost to the day that we're
Yeah.
leaving for Ocean City, and then ultimately on to Riverside in Chattanooga, Tennessee from Ocean City. So there's so much to do, man. Yeah, if you've watched the latest YouTube episodes, I've recently posted the wheels I just bought for the Century. I bought some 1997 three-piece 18-inch work VSX9s. They resemble, I don't want to say that, I easily say they resemble a BBS wheel, only because when I first got into like motorsport wheels, it was BBS wheels that I like versed myself on first.
It's like a Le Mans. It's like
it's a motorsport wheel.
Yeah.
Because I mean, work and like other Japanese wheels were making wheels that looked similar to the BBS stuff at the same time. So, but it's got a look. It's got a look I was going for the Century, simply because I think a 5-spoke wheel would work on that car, but it's a super long wheelbase luxury car. So I knew something like elegant needed to be put on the car.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want a 5-spoke wheel, and I'd sold the Desmonds because they were 17s.
Right.
I wanted to go up to an 18 for Ocean City, but I sold the Desmonds like a couple weeks ago with only like a month to go, and I was like, I've got to find something now, but I've got to find something that'll fit the car, that'll fit the aesthetic, that I'm not spending a ton of money on.
Right.
And so anyway, I found the works. I had some friends who vouched for some people at VR Wheels, and I contacted a guy from VR Wheels, and we spoke about it. He was able to get them to the front of the line for shipping. I opted not to do the lips, like new lips, but also to change the widths as well. So once the wheels got here, I was like, well, at least I've got the wheels. If the lips take forever to get in, or decide I don't want to spend the money on them, I always have the wheels on the car. And as I test fit them, I realized I could widen the front and the rears by a 1/2 inch all around. So I ordered the lips. They had to be machined, drilled, and they polish them. And they were supposed to go out Friday. It's Sunday now. It's supposed to go out Friday, and I haven't heard. I've sent a couple messages. I haven't heard back as to whether or not they did go out Friday. And it's like 5 days, hopefully, from California.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I've got them by the end of this upcoming next week, because I can't start pulling the suspension apart in the Century until I've got the wheels all back together, the tires on them and on the car.
That's right.
Because I have to cut my front strut assembly apart and lengthen it, because the front lower bag perch and the bag itself touches with an 18-inch tire in there. Because when I designed that suspension, I had the Desmonds, and I played it too close to the chest for the 17. So now when I go up to an 18, it touches the airbag, and that's so much work. I'm like dreading doing it, just because I plug welded the fronts when I first did it, and those are going to be a nightmare to try to. I can't drill them out, because if I drill too far, I go into the strut body, and
that's not good.
And the fluids will leak out, and then I need new strut bodies, and I need to get those from Airlift or from Bag Riders, and then it's just opening a can of worms for time that I don't have.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm hoping everything will be here for the wheels by the end of the week, can get everything together, and then start that project. Last couple episodes, I've been working on the Podcast of the Century mobile studio in the car, and I've got some mounts made, the microphone boom arms, the microphones, everything fit in there okay. That's all done. Some small stuff I just need to work on, getting all the actual like recording gear mounted. I think if anything, I'll use some the rubber mat that has like an adhesive on one side and put it on the gear so it can sit up on like the counter in the back seat not slide around. So I'm not like actually fastening it to anything. We're only going to be cruising up and down the strip. We're not going to be like driving at highway speeds.
Of course.
And so that's coming together. Getting the microphone boom arms mounted was the biggest part of that project, because they're kind of heavy, they're metal, and when you start moving them around, they've got so much leverage on where they mount. So I ended up making these metal brackets that mount to the lower seat bolt, and got those sorted out. So getting closer with the Podcast of the Century. I've actually been talking to some friends about who I'm going to have on. I'm trying to put a schedule together.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have like 10. That sounds like a nice even number, and
it sounds good,
and doable for the weekend. I'm taking another sip.
Yeah, that sounds like a good number to have.
And they'll be 15 to 20 minute, hopefully. That's kind of what I'm aiming for, 15 to 20 minute shorts. And and obviously filming them. I got to buy some more video gear. to have that filmed properly.
Yeah, you were saying another GoPro for another angle and
Yeah, I'd like to.
stuff.
Yeah, because if I end up selling that car, I'd really wish I had stepped up and done this podcast series in that car as best I could, and not like been worried about spending a few more $100 that ultimately would have made it a better production.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I'm looking at that. We're getting down to the point where we can't order any more stuff. And that reminds me, before you leave, we need to look at Lowrider Depot
Yes.
or Bag Riders
That's
and
right.
get some bags coming for your project.
Yes.
Your Mercedes 190E,
Yep.
which you are now putting Caster Air Ride
Yep.
in.
Met with Doug from Caster the other day. Got all the air ride supplies. I'm excited to work with Caster on this one.
I'm eager to see how that works in person, because I met up with Doug at SEMA last year,
Yep.
and the founder, CEO, owner, whatever his position is, of Caster from Brazil was actually there, and I had a chance to meet him. Yeah, and they wanted to work with me on a project, and at the time, AccuAir just started ideas in motion to work with the Century, and I was
That's
like,
right.
I don't have anything right now, but and I wasn't too certain if I really wanted to go that route. We talked about if I ended up getting that Gall, that Brazilian Volkswagen Gall.
Yep, that'd be a good fit.
We'd use Caster in it because it's a Brazilian market Volkswagen and a Brazilian air suspension company. It'd pair really well. But I'm glad you guys were able to work something out.
Yeah, me
'Cause-
too. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I like different things. I like being diverse. So it'd be kind of cool to see that system.
Yeah, they have a lot of cool features Doug was showing me. Like I was telling you, right through the app, they have like the air fill and release speed controllable.
It's like
right
a flow
through the app.
control
Yeah, it's
built
a flow
in.
control right
Yeah.
through the manifold, which is pretty cool.
And the AccuAir endo tank has that too, so it might be similar.
Oh, does
Although
it?
you can't control the flow control from the app.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's actually a really cool feature.
Yeah, it's cool. And they got some other cool stuff that he was showing me. But yeah, I'm excited to get it in the car and get it.
You have it now, right?
Yeah,
you
I
have
have
it.
it.
Yeah, in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so now we just got to get bags because you've got the Commonwealth control arm kit,
Yeah.
and just got to get bags.
Yep.
And airline, right?
I have airline.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, yeah, it's all, like we were saying, it's all 3/8. I'm still not sure if I'm going to run the 3/8 or get the 1/4 inch fittings and run 1/4 inch.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll be easier to run throughout the car, 1/4 inch, that's for sure.
for sure, and it bends a little easier and tighter.
Yeah. Yep.
When I had my 190 on air, I ran 3/8 at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and it was too fast for my liking.
Yeah.
And then I put like a flow control fittings in
Yeah,
there and
that's
squeezed
right.
them right down.
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, it's hard to tell because you won't know how versatile that flow control is through the app and the manifold
Right.
until it's plumbed.
Yeah.
So
And like we were talking about, one of the good things about the Mercedes is the way the bags are mounted in the car. You drill a hole on top and run the airline straight down through to a straight fitting.
Right.
So it's not like there's super tight
yeah,
turns on the airline.
bends that it has to make.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm
yeah.
eager to see that all put together.
Yeah, me too.
And I wish, and actually, it's actually one of the questions that came in on Instagram, but since we're on the subject, I wish we were still in a position where we had like the same shop, because I could be covering. I mean, you say it's not your forte, but it's really not mine either to like film and do YouTube stuff. Like I'm still learning, and it's so stressful because it makes projects take 4 or 5 or maybe even more times longer
Yeah.
than they should, especially when it's a project that I need like my thinking cap on for, and I don't want to have to stop and reset the camera up and then explain what I'm doing
Yeah.
when I don't even really know what I'm doing in the first place. And
Yeah.
I've got to try to explain it to make it sound like I do. I'm like, listen, I'm just like trying to figure this out. I don't really know what to say here.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either.
And then it takes like a day, almost a day to
Yeah.
like post everything, edit,
Of course.
all that stuff. And yeah, but it would be cool, obviously, if we were down south already in Tennessee or something and had a shop,
Yeah.
and we could just have those projects. Hopefully we had a shop large enough where my Century project's going on and your car project's going on, and we just kind of each day like worked on a different project or whatever. It would just be easier to like capture build progress on all the cars.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I am gonna use my DSLR and film what I do on the Mercedes and then just edit it, and
Yeah,
I don't
that'd be
know.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. even if it's
incorporate it to one of your videos
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause
Just go from there.
I'm always like reaching deep to try to like create more content.
Yeah.
So if you've got, we could probably figure that out for sure.
Cool. Yeah. It'll probably be good for the caster guys too to have another
Yeah.
car install basically.
And that's what Doug was talking to me about when he was trying to get like me to run caster on something. He's like, yeah, because we'd love to have that exposure.
Yeah.
You know, and that content creation. And I get it, you know.
Yeah, they're looking to spread the word and
make a stamp in the US market.
yeah,
too.
we don't have to get too into it, but there is an opening, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And they're real big in South America.
Yeah, they are.
Because it's as with Europe and stuff, it's like expensive to get airlift and Acura and all that stuff like shipped over there and whatnot. So
Yeah, and when I met up with Doug the other day, he was saying he just sent several kits to Germany. Did you see that Beetle? Or there was actually two Beetles
on RSs, right?
Yeah. Those are
Yep.
both in Germany, and he sent all the kits over to there.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, that's good for them to get over there too.
I really hope those kits end up being like real solid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
That'd be great. I mean, and you'll know firsthand since you'll have it in the Mercedes.
Of course.
Yeah. And so the next thing, once you start diving into that, I mean, you've done some paint work. You've painted with door cladding and stuff.
Yep.
And rockers.
Yep.
And yeah, it's the hunt's on for wheels.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know that crunch
Yep.
because I just got that over with.
Luckily, I know like in your position, you needed the wheels in order to fit the car to build the suspension.
Yeah.
Where I have some stock Audi 17s that'll actually fit right on the Mercedes, similar specs to what I'm looking to buy anyways. So
Yeah,
I'll be able to have them on the car, put all the air in, get it all set up, and then even if it comes down to like super crunch time, just find some wheels and
Yeah.
go from there. But yeah, I have my eyes on a few sets.
Yeah. And like we were saying, it's the same deal with some of the wheels I was looking for the Century. It was like just a little out of the budget for like what you really want to spend. That's
Yeah.
Like, ugh, like how bad I don't want to spend like, $3,000 on wheels.
Exactly. And like, I'm sure you're the same way. I have to think about like actually getting down to Ocean City and being in Ocean City. And all right, now I need money down there and fuel to get
Yep.
home. And
Yep.
it's like, all right.
Yeah, we're going on to Chattanooga from there too, and
Exactly,
it's like,
yeah.
there's more food
Yeah.
and not home making money.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The paychecks stop coming in when we're not home.
man. Well, and I'm vending with TGC at Riverside, so I'm hoping
That's right.
since there's been a lack of volume of car shows this year, I'm hoping kids are coming with pockets full of their unemployment money, like ready to spend it on
I'm sure they are.
TGC gear.
Yeah.
Because I'll have some. There's I'm gonna have the new pocket tees with me. I'm gonna have the new long sleeves, tumblers. I'm gonna make some more of those. I still have a handful of the Riverside Governors Club 2020 keyrings that I had made originally, or that I made myself originally for the March show.
That's right,
Which was canceled the day before the show because of the beginning of the COVID thing. So I still have a bunch of those. I'm hoping to sell those off. Yeah, I'm hoping to make a little bit of money on this trip. That's the whole reason why I'm hauling the whole kit and caboodle all the way to Chattanooga.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I want to go to hang out too, but it's like to make it financially viable. That's why, like you were saying, maybe having Ryan drive your rig home from Ocean City and just traveling on with us.
Yeah. I still got to talk to him about that, but
Yeah, because he's a little baby and sleeps in the car. Yeah, you're worried about him driving all the way home. Yeah. I mean, luckily I've got a 4-door. Right now, Kyron's the only one that's going to be with me in my truck.
Yeah.
So there'll be plenty of room. And yeah, man, down to 3 weeks, it's getting stressful.
Yeah.
I've got to order, and I had a few pretty big night laser jobs come in, which I'm super grateful for because it's been kind of slow lately. But it's like now I've got some big jobs coming in that's going to take me some days of production, like hammer days.
Yeah.
And I've got all this other stuff. I usually for Ocean City, it's always down to the wire with something, whatever project I'm working on. And I usually try to take like 2 weeks leading up to the show, like off.
Yeah.
So I can
of
focus
course.
on everything, the truck that I'm hauling the car with, the car itself, maintenance on all those things, TGC gear, key rings,
Yep.
that I try to sell down there, and just all around networking. That takes up a lot of mental bandwidth too. So yeah, this year's going to be no different. That's for sure.
Yep.
I'm eager to see how everything in Ocean City goes too with the COVID thing.
Yeah, me too. I'm curious to see what they're buckling down on, and what they'll allow.
I'm sure massive groups of people hanging out in parking lots won't be an okay thing this year, unless it's noticeable that people are all wearing masks or just kind of keeping their distance and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the police continue to be as tyrannical about the things they have in the past, like massive degrees of camber and like the usual.
Of
the
course.
usual. I'm hoping
Yeah.
they're not like too combative about just like people just trying to be in Ocean City and
Right.
not cause any trouble, and bring revenue to the town. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we're going, so
Yep.
we shall see soon. But for everybody listening, if you're coming to Ocean City, find us in the Century. I will have key rings. I will have shirts. And we will be recording the podcast of the Century.
Yes, we will.
Excited about that. Not excited that the AC is not working in the Century. And as you know, since we drove that car cross country, it gets a little toasty in the back seat.
It does, yeah. Hopefully, with it being later in the season.
Yeah, well, and it's Ocean City too, so sometimes it's brutally hot down there too. It does get
hot, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll be all right.
I might swing the car down to Pete's shop down the street here and just be like, because it might just need a charge. I don't know.
Probably.
There's so much insane technology and like 1990s technology in that car that I'm not sure what could possibly be wrong. But if I have him just charge the system, maybe it's working, and maybe it's the most dreamy of dreamy cars.
Yeah,
because
it probably takes like 10 gallons of Freon to fill that system.
The ice maker in the back runs off the AC system.
I know.
So like, how much Freon does it take to make ice? Like,
all of it.
Yeah. Put all of it in there.
Jeez.
And who knows where like some potential leaks maybe, like in the middle of the car somewhere.
Exactly. Or the condenser, you never know where.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I don't know. There's a bunch of weird AC pumps and stuff behind the rear seats, like where I was going to put all my air suspension stuff. When I took the false wall out in the trunk, there's like air purifiers and like the massaging rear seat motors, the reclining seat motors. There's like hard lines everywhere and AC vents and HVAC ducting. And I'm like, oh,
yikes.
There's so much insanity back here. 1990s insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
all in Japanese.
Yeah, everything's in Japanese. The air purifier says air purifier and then a bunch of like Japanese writing.
Yeah.
I've actually gone around that car with Google Translate.
Yeah.
And actually like it started with just the switches in the car. I mean, obviously on the drive home, we were just kind of pressing buttons, see what did what. But when I was doing the air suspension, I just started like, I'd just turn on the live camera on Google Translate and I would just be kind of like going over all the switches and buttons, and it's live translating on my phone, obviously. And I'm like reading all the stuff just because it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But in the back, when I was like unplugging stuff, I was kind of like reading what they were first. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
that's AC.
It's probably smart.
That's suspension dampening, because it had like adjustable like shock dampening from the driver's seat. You had control over all that. So like a sports suspension mode and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But
the car won't be aesthetically where I really want it for Ocean City. I really wanted embroidered TGC procession flags. I wanted so much more stuff. I wanted true Japanese TV aerial antennas on it. There's a lot of stuff I really wanted. And this year's just been upside down. It's just been a tough year. I didn't have the work I thought I was going to have this year. So I was like, I'm not going to spend all this extra money on certain things.
I get it. Yeah, this whole year's been a really weird time warp. Like you were just mentioning being in Chattanooga back in March, and it feels like that was forever ago, but at the same time, it flew by.
It was like 6 months ago.
Yeah, and it's this weird like time warp.
Well, it's, if any year made you feel like you were treading water, it's this year.
Yeah, of course.
And that does this weird thing where it feels like it's dragging on forever and ever and ever, like a ceaseless stumbling on type deal. Or once you've almost like been immersed in that type of feeling for a while, then it feels like time has flown by.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, strange.
It's weird that it's dark before 8 o'clock at night now.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And I'm like, where did summer go? But then you think about the amount of riding we've been doing.
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
When I think back to like when we first started going to Hyde Park, I'm like, oh, that was in like May.
Yeah.
And it seems so long ago. Yeah, it's weird how it can seem both ways when you think about it. But Yeah. Man, Ocean City. I'm excited to get down there.
Me too.
Yeah, hoping the weather plays ball. Excited about the podcast of the century. Excited about just content in general for like this fall.
Yeah, excited to see everyone.
Yep. Going to cram in a bunch of full-length podcasts as well while we're down there.
Yeah.
Trying to line up a bunch of people for that. Gonna have Fred White on from 1320. He's staying with us in the house.
Yep.
Obviously, anyway. But would like to get a handful of other people. Anthony Purcell, Halcyon. I talked to him about doing a podcast of the century episode, but I'd love to have him on for a full length. And a couple other people.
Have Kyron sit down with you.
Yeah, I'd like to do one with Kyron.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to talk about not only his journey to America to pursue a career of being a professional photographer and succeeding in that,
Pretty insane career.
but also our trip, in the BMW and all that. So, yeah. And if you guys are listening, he actually just went live. I said we just went live with the Speed Hunters feature of the 700, the BMW 700. So like last week.
Yeah.
And those are all Kyron's photos, my friend Dave Thomas's words, and my father and I's work. Kyron shot the Corvair and the Lada, and those were both running Speed Hunters too, which is kind of crazy because they're like not the usual content for Speed Hunters.
Yeah.
And he shot the E23 for it too, and it's done. It's edited. It's done. It's waiting in queue to go live.
I know.
And Kyron has been teasing me with some photos because we shot it at Molten Farm.
Yeah.
In October.
Yeah. After
in the
Ocean
pumpkin
City last
patch.
year, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2018.
Yeah. That's right.
And oh my goodness. He's like, I don't think I've ever spent more time color grading photos because they had to be just right. Cypress green E23 surrounded by an old farmhouse with pumpkins everywhere, bright orange pumpkins.
Yeah.
The colors are just insane. And he's teased me with like 3 photos. And he's like, do not put these on the internet. I'm like, I'm good. But I'm itching to see. Because the thing about that Speed Hunters feature is he's integrating the trip cross country with it too.
Yeah.
So it's a story about, me finding the car, this rare diplomatic, spec E23. And then, doing all the things I did to it. And then ultimately driving it cross country to sell it. And obviously Kyron was on that trip, so he can speak firsthand.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the whole story, all encompassing.
So I'm excited. So Ryan Stewart and all the boys at Speed Hunters, if you're listening to this episode, press the publish button on the E23. I want to see those photos so badly.
Yeah.
So I can click on my phone and go add to photos, add to photos. Because Kyron worked his butt off on those photos.
Heck yeah.
And I haven't seen any of the photos from the cross country trip.
I know.
You know how often we could hear Kyron's shutter clicking
The whole time. Well, other than when he was sleeping.
Yeah, which was basically 4 a.m. to like noon every day while we were driving.
It's fine.
But he was putting in work otherwise. And no matter where we were, what part of the country we were in, what kind of landscape we were seeing, click, 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 click. I'm like, man, like I am not a photographer, but I shoot enough with my DSLR to where I dread going through. I dread going into Lightroom and going through all my photos on my SD card. I'm like, oh, there's so many, and it's like 100.
Yeah.
And he's out there putting 100,000 click or shutter count. On
I remember the first stop we were in Nashville, right? And
first stop was Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh yeah, that's right. It might have been the second stop then, because
that was Nashville.
Yeah. We sat down one night and he like plugged in his camera to the computer and he's like, oh shoot, I've already taken like 2,000 photos. Oh man.
Click, click, click. Yeah, second day of what turned out to be like a 7 to 9 day trip out there.
Yeah.
I think it was 7.
I think he was with us for 7 days.
It was 7 to California. He flew to China to film ClimbCon because he had just been hired by Ken Block before this trip. And which was crazy was he went on this trip instead of flying to China to film ClimbCon. And he was receiving emails from Ken Block on this trip being like, hope you guys aren't broke down Kansas somewhere.
We need you.
And he's like, waiting for you to get here. The second we got to LA, he went to LAX the next morning and flew to China.
That's right. Yep.
So crazy. Yeah, he's not doing that anymore, and he's kind of happy he's not. He said it was a complete rat race, 90 plus hours a week, and he said it was just super stressful.
Yeah.
So it was a dream job to have on his resume.
Of course, yeah.
But not as glorious as most people would think, which I totally get it.
Yeah, I can see it too.
But then after he was let go thankfully for him, but he was like ended up like getting let go or something happened there. He sent me a photo. He was at Jay Leno's garage doing some work with some PR people there, shooting some cars in Jay Leno's garage. And I'm like, well, if you can't work for Ken Block, I guess hanging out in Jay Leno's garage is a close second.
Yep, absolutely.
Holy cow. Pretty sweet.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd like to sit down with Kyron. I've got a list. That's why I've been doing those Instagram polls, being like, who are we going to see in Ocean City? And in another week or two, I'm actually going to be like, okay, who do you guys want to hear on the podcast?
Yeah.
And who's actually going to be there?
Right.
Because I texted Nick Ponterio this morning actually, and because he responded to one of the polls. I basically said, will we see you in Ocean City? And he responded yes. So I screenshot that because there's a few other people I wanted on the podcast in there. So I texted Nick and I'm like, hey, what day are you getting Ocean City? He's like, oh, I haven't decided yet if I'm going. I'm like, you said in the poll you were going.
Yeah.
And I want to have you on the podcast. You go, that'd be pretty sweet. Let me see if I can make it happen. And I'm like, you said.
Yeah.
Maybe he meant to click no. I was so bummed. I hope he makes it because him and I go way back. You know, we rode professionally on the same couple of like teams, same BMX sponsors. So I knew him long before he started his polishing and blasting company.
Yeah.
And now we both exist and own businesses in like the automotive community. So it'd be kind of cool to like go back to the very beginning and talk about our time being on The Take, which was the first pro sponsorship. I think it was his first pro sponsor as well.
Yeah.
As well as mine. I was on the team a year or two before him, but it's kind of funny. We both like went pro on the same company, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, handful of other people I've got in mind too. So excited about that. But yeah, I put out a questionnaire on Instagram today, last second as always, while we were working on the Ford. Let's talk about what we did on the Ford. So I needed headlights in that truck terribly. I had used toothpaste. I had used the headlight restore. I had wet sanded. I did everything, and those headlights were just not coming back.
No.
They were foggy as foggy got.
No saving them.
So I couldn't see anything unless I had my high beams on at night, basically, and that's no bueno with an old truck hauling a 24-foot enclosed trailer with a 5,000-pound car inside of it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I ordered all new lights for the whole truck. Headlights, marker lights, blinker lenses, tail lights, the works. So we got all those in. I took the air cleaner out today because the air filter. I'd never had the air filter out of that thing. And there was like, and this was a Tennessee truck. There was a full blown like, I think he just shed his skin, but there was like a snake basically like inside the air filter.
Snake skin.
But he had crawled in there, I think, and like shed his skin and crawled out because there was no other evidence of the snake other than like this giant snake skin sitting in there. Cleaned that. That's a Banks Sidewinder K&N filter in there because it's got a Banks Sidewinder turbo setup on it that I've mentioned before is not working. So I'm driving that thing with like a C's turbo. And I know a few of you have asked who listened. I'm not sure what, if any, detrimental like results might happen for driving that truck with a C's turbo.
Yeah,
it's clogged. It's clogged up.
It's hard to say why it's not working.
Like Pete, my buddy down the street, who I've mentioned before, has he worked in the heavy division of Ford in the '90s when these trucks were new, and his guess, he hasn't really diagnosed it or looked into it, but his guess was that something might have gone wrong with the oiling and it seized up.
Yeah,
and then the truck sat for a long time and. Because I had talked to some other friends, like, oh, maybe the wastegate's stuck open, and Pete's like, I don't think so. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. If the wastegate were open, it would just make a ton of turbo noise and not boost at all.
The turbo would spin. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you can't hear it spin.
Yeah,
it's not building any boost.
Any noise.
I think it's just seized up. Exhaust
so.
is going through it.
Yeah.
I've checked all that. We clogged, my dad and I, even just last week, we clogged the tailpipes, plugged them right up, and I held the thing at $2,000 for a solid 5 minutes. Didn't starve for anything.
Yeah,
the thing ran just fine. Then left it idling for another solid 20 minutes as we like walked around the truck and searched for other leaks. And it's a diesel, so it's obvious where some of the other leaks are.
Yeah,
a lot of soot and whatnot. And I even pumped the throttle. It runs pretty rich, so when I pump the throttle real quick, it'll plume smoke.
Yeah.
And none of that came out from under the hood.
Yeah.
Like we had the hood open, we were watching, I'd pump it and no smoke out of the turbo area or anything like that. So yeah, if the wastegate was open, you'd think it would, there'd be some sort of evidence of like,
yeah,
but it's coming out of some leaks underneath the truck. So I'm like, all right, well, exhaust is getting through that turbo.
Yeah.
And probably seized up. So I've got a line on, well, I don't have a line on. I'm planning on just spending the money on a whole new turbo setup.
Right.
Not even just binning that whole thing and just spending.
Start over.
Yeah, justifying a couple $1,000s if that's hopefully where I can stay budget wise, and just throw a couple grand into a whole new turbo setup. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, just a full setup. So I've got lubrication, I've got exhaust, I've got, just your air setup, all that.
Yeah.
And rather than put it back to an NA truck.
Right.
Because like I said earlier, putting it back to an NA truck right now, which it was from the factory, I would actually gain power.
You would, yeah.
Because I'm pushing exhaust to like a seized wall, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And so I'd gain power. But like even Pete said, Pete's like, he bought one of those trucks brand new.
Yeah.
It was an NA, and then he had a turbo one for a while. And he's like, listen, you definitely want to invest. And he goes, and that's the truck to do it. He said, he's seen the truck. It's rust free, barely has any dings. It's rust free. And I've been buffing the paint out. So you saw it today. It looks like a brand new truck. And now it's got brand new lights all around. And so it's really starting to look like a proper brand new truck.
It is.
I'm going to get a new grill in it. Cause some of the, cause the grills are plastic. So all that chrome is just like a foil.
Yeah.
Some of that's coming apart. So I'm going to put a new grill in it. And and then just justify buying a whole new turbo setup. Cause like he said too, he's like, man, you put a turbo in that thing and that you're not going to want another truck. He goes, I wouldn't want another tow truck, like a haul truck. I'd love to have a Dodge Laramie, like a new-ish, super comfortable.
Of course.
Heated steering wheel,
still
a manual, but like, Cummins powered. Those are beautiful trucks too. But he's like, you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
He's like, those 7.3s with a turbo, they've got enough power. You can cruise down the road with a trailer behind you at highway speeds. They're bulletproof. You can buy parts for them. They're easier to work on than these new trucks that need to be plugged in.
Yeah, they definitely are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm into mine right. So I'm happy I didn't sell it. I had a few buyers lined up. I had somebody like ready to come with cash, but a few things happened on their end where they couldn't make it in the timeline that they wanted to. And then by the time that they were ready to come get it, I was like, I'm keeping it. Because at this point, the timeline was too close for Ocean City. I'm like, I don't have time to go buy another truck and pray that it doesn't need any maintenance and then just hook onto my trailer and go. So I'm really happy I've decided to keep the Ford. I say that now because I'm not potentially dealing with any roadside issues on the way to Tennessee and back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. And now that I've been cleaning the paint up and it looks like a new truck again, and like you can see reflection in a white door, I'm real excited about it.
Yeah.
So I feel rejuvenated on that truck. But let's get into some Instagram questions, I suppose.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, no, I'm all burpy because of this coffee.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Oh yeah, so you're planning on possibly trailering or definitely trailering the Mercedes down as well.
Yeah.
Because you're borrowing a truck and a friend's trailer.
Yep.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. You don't have to worry
Truck
about...
and trailer are ready to go, which is good. I don't have to worry about messing with those or...
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Then you just got to get the car sorted out.
Exactly. Yeah. A car to put on the trailer. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let me open these things up. Let me see. I got to get into Instagram here and get to the section where they have all the questions. Okay.
Here we go. Oh, a few came in.
Yeah. No, we've got more than enough.
Nice.
More than enough. And I've only read off a couple of these to you. So a lot of these are the first time I'm looking at them too.
Nice.
I'm going to screenshot them and then get out of here. Okay. I think that's all of them. I should just stay in here. Yeah, I'll stay in here. So, okay. Normally I try to like look at these before we go live so I can kind of categorize them so I'm not jumping around. That way if a couple are pretty similar, we answer them all in one go. I did not do that this time, so we're just going to wing this.
Yeah.
Papa Ket says, what's the ultimate 80s or 90s or 80s to the 90s wagon for you, and why is it a Volvo 245? That's awesome.
Brilliant.
That's awesome. I think he's been trying to get me to buy his Volvo 245. I might be wrong. Forgive me. I feel like somebody's messaged me recently about buying a Volvo 245. If I wasn't buried in projects, I would be a player for sure.
Yeah.
They're
cool cars.
Ultimate 80s, 90s wagon. I mean, it's hard. It's so hard not to include an E30 touring wagon in there.
Of course.
And if we're getting rare of rare, because you probably never will be able to find one, a Schultz E28 touring wagon.
That's right.
Which only made like a couple or a few of. Those are a beautiful car. I had, as you already know, I had a 1989 Volkswagen Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And that is the coolest, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking wagons. Now, hear me out though. I get it. Bone stock. They're just like, you're like, what? Why? It's like a it's like a Corolla wagon, but it's a two-door. So it's a two-door wagon. So it almost looks like a Vega wagon.
Yeah.
But then it's a longitude mounted front wheel drive car. So it's got all this weird hood space in front of the front wheels. It's like, it almost looks nose heavy.
Yeah.
Almost like a cab forward type car. And you're like, I don't get it. But when I built coilovers and slammed mine on 13-inch Vega wheels, you know, it looked like...
That's where it belongs, on the ground.
Yeah, it looked like a Japanese, like a two-door Corolla wagon.
Yeah.
Like a late 70s Corolla wagon almost. And so that holds a special place in my heart. A stock Volkswagen doesn't, but like having owned one slammed on little 13-inch wheels.
Yeah, of course.
Volkswagen stands out to me. I think I'm a weird dude, man. Like I like the 80s and early 90s Camry wagons.
Why is that weird?
That's
because
awesome. They're Camrys. But yeah, I love Camry wagons. I love wagons. I mean, most people that know me, most people that know me know I'm a grocery getter like fan through and through.
Me too.
Shooting brakes, wagons, all that stuff.
State.
I don't know.
S124 states.
Yeah. W124 or S124 technically.
Yeah.
But the 124 chassis Mercedes, in my opinion, the pre-facelift, a little bit more square.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best looking cars ever made. Like Mercedes, for some reason, I know that's subjective, but like to me, the body lines of a 124 generation estate wagon is perfect. There's no body line where I'm like, I wish they did this. I wish they did that. All the windows look right. The hatch line looks right. The taillights are perfect. There's no weird empty space between the taillights and the plate tub. Everything seems to just be in its proper place. It's not like there was like a design issue where there's like the front end of a Studebaker Avanti where it's like, they clearly finished that one up at like 4 p.m. on a Friday. They're just like, good enough. Put some headlights in there.
Yep.
It's a front engine water cooled car, but there's no grill. There's nothing up there. But yeah, I think that I agree. That's one of the best looking cars. I mean, what's Dave Del Toro's Generation Avant? That's a sweet
C4.
C4?
Yeah, C4 S6.
That's not a B platform car?
No, it's C.
That is such a good looking car.
Because it's a 6, the S6.
That's right.
I believe it's a C4 S6.
Such a cool car.
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Since we're there, the RS2 Avant.
Yes, that one, for sure, that's one of the top
Absolutely.
Ever. Yeah. I'm racking my brain because we didn't read this before.
Any Audi is better as an Avant if we can...
One could argue almost any car would be better as an Avant, estate, or wagon.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to say it because I know some of you that are listening are probably already thinking it. They're like, why hasn't he said this? You better say it. You preach this all the time. You better say it.
Preach the word.
I'm going to say it. I didn't forget you guys. A K car wagon.
Yep.
Come on, son.
I should have known.
A Dodge Aries wagon.
That's right,
Plymouth Sundance wagon. Well, I don't remember the actual model names.
Sundance.
They were. That was a Plymouth. Oh, it was Plymouth Sundance.
Yeah, that's right.
Chrysler. What was a Reliant? They made a Reliant wagon.
Yeah.
That was the Plymouth Reliant. Dodge. It's all the same. It's all Mopar amazing.
They just put a bunch of different names on all.
I'm telling you,
same car.
I love K cars so much. I saw a photo of a first generation Caravan just on like Instagram the other day.
Yeah.
And it was sitting in a driveway next to a Ford. What was that Ford van in the early 90s? What is it, a Windstar?
Yeah. Or
Voyager? No, it was Dodge.
No, that was Dodge. Yeah, it was either a Windstar or like a Aerostar.
It wasn't the Aero. It wasn't the like
bubbly one.
It wasn't. Well, yeah. It wasn't the Chevy. You know the Chevy Astro van generation, and the Ford made the Astro.
Yeah.
Type van.
Yeah.
It was the first version of like the Caravan Ford version. So it might have been a Windstar.
Yeah, Windstar, I would think.
It was, and it almost had like the Ford. It almost had the like the Ford Contour front end look to
Okay.
it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like early 90s. And it was those two sitting in a driveway. And it immediately reminded me how badly I want a first gen Chrysler Caravan, but with a 2.2 turbo with a manual swap
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
Because that was a K car. That was a Dodge Omni, Plymouth Horizon, you know, the cars that look like the Volkswagen Rabbits.
Yeah, of course.
You could get them in a 2.2 with a turbo with a manual. And that's all the same subframe, as far as I know, as the Caravan.
I
Those
think
are all
so,
K,
yeah.
K front, K subframes. And I want one so bad. I know it's so dorky, but
No, man.
if I could daily drive a slammed first generation Dodge Caravan with a manual and a 2.2 turbo in it, or any cool little hot little motor, a 1.9 turbo diesel Volkswagen motor, I don't care.
Absolutely.
like I want, slammed on like 14-inch work equips, like total Shakotan Japanese style.
Yeah,
just
man.
in the first generation Caravans had the Chrysler mascot, star out at the end of the hood.
Yeah.
Like it was contending with Mercedes in some weird way.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those things. Oh, and the two-spoke Chrysler steering wheel had the big Chrysler logo in the middle and had the two-spoke, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like not cool how cool I think those cars are. I love K cars
Guilty
so much,
pleasure.
except for the convertibles. And I'll reiterate this. I think every convertible is ugly.
Oh, absolutely.
I hate convertibles.
Okay.
I'm not talking just K cars.
Yeah.
Except for the 190 SL we saw drive by my house earlier tonight.
That's true.
That older.
Yes.
I mean, I live in a
Older
lake
convertibles.
town in New Hampshire, and so you see some money cars driving around because there's some like money on the lake, obviously, but you don't see those.
Yeah. Oh,
I saw one Pagoda on Main Street once. It was like a perfect scenario. It was an elderly gentleman coming out of the local barber shop on Main Street, and it was like the only car parked on Main Street, and it had it was a Pagoda,
Yeah.
and he had a hardtop on it, which
Yep.
is like just. And I'm gonna quote myself here in a minute, and I'm gonna put it, like you miss every shot you don't take, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like quote this because I'm sure
Okay.
someone else has said it.
Okay.
But he was walking out to the car, and I was in like the Corvair or something cruising by, and I rolled the window down, and I was like, not every day I see a Pagoda on Main Street in Meredith, and he like wide-eyed looked at me, and as because I didn't stop, as I cruised by, he was like, how do you know there's a Pagoda? Because it was like a 280 SL
Exactly, yeah.
or something like that. I can't remember. It was a 2.8 liter motor,
Yeah.
I think, in it. So it was a 280 SL or something like that.
Yeah.
But the street name for the car or for the Mercedes enthusiast, it was a Pagoda.
Yeah.
And then tonight, as we're just standing out in my driveway, this beautiful ivory, like
Immaculate.
off-white, perfect, like concourse level from what we could see from the road, elderly couple in a 190 SL, like late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
Just putting up the road. Just sounded like a sewing machine.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay.
My jaw hit the friggin' ground.
I'm like, okay. Because where they were heading north up the hill around my house, so you can't see until they're in front of my driveway.
Yeah.
It's not like you can see it coming. It was just like, brr, there it is. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So that was a treat. But getting back to the convertible thing, I thought about this the other day, that the only thing, and I'll have to think about this so I can word the quote well so it stands out in history.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But
So it's
basically,
written down in the record
yeah,
books?
exactly.
Yeah.
But basically, in not so many words, my favorite thing about convertibles are how good they look with the designed hardtops.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
E30.
I was getting warmed up to say that same exact thing.
So E30 convertibles with a hardtop, banging.
yes.
E36 convertible with a
E36
hardtop,
convertible with the
banging.
hardtop is one of the best looking cars.
Yes.
You take the hardtop off, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. Good. It's like an amphib. It belongs in the water. It's like a boat.
Yeah.
Pagodas.
Yeah. Keep
The hardtop on that
it.
pagoda. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. The successor to the pagoda, the R129.
R129, yeah. Oh yeah.
That car with the hardtop looks like just an unbelievable car with a hardtop on it.
Yeah,
Just make your way.
Even getting into like the S2000s and what else?
Miatas with hardtops.
Miatas with hardtops.
S2000s with hardtops
Yeah.
for sure. That's the only thing I like about convertibles are the hardtop options,
Me too,
making
man.
them a coupe and not a
great.
convertible.
Yeah, because they have like sharper lines than some of the coupes do, especially in like the E36 and the E30s.
They didn't start doing
just-
hardtop options on convertibles until like the Pagoda in the 60s.
Yeah,
I don't think because there's no American convertible boat car that had a hardtop option that I know of.
no, not that
Like,
I know of either.
all the Cutlasses, the Impalas,
Yeah.
all those the Caprices, all those convertibles were just a fold down top. They never
Yeah.
made like hardtop options.
America was doing some weird stuff. They put like vinyl tops over metal roofs.
Right.
And it looks like a convertible, but it doesn't
It's
go
not,
down.
right.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
America lose.
It was just
You lose.
it was like a weird time for
Yeah.
all that stuff. But yeah, K cars though.
Yeah, back to
K cars. I love K cars so much.
I know.
And if I sell the Century, which it might be looking like that might have, I don't know, but if I am prepared to be crucified by everybody for selling a Century and buying a Caravan. You know what I mean? Because that's gonna happen. I'm gonna sell
Oh man,
the
can
most.
you believe that?
I'm gonna sell the most prestigious car that Japan ever produced in the 90s, from the 60s to the 90s. Like they made 400 of these.
Yeah.
And they were the most prestigious, most elegant, most luxurious cars that ever came out of Japan, out of a factory or out of a manufacturer, like
Yep.
a non-coach built, between Nissan, Toyota, all the other like brands that were coming out of Japan in the 80s and 90s. The Toyota Century long wheelbase is it's more prestigious than the Nissan
I
Presidents.
know it. Yeah.
And I'm going to sell one of the 400 ever built in the world that were never exported out of Japan for a Dodge Caravan. And I'm gonna be elated.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be over the moon because I'm gonna wait to find that like 20,000 mile cream puff grandma owned. It's been sitting in the garage. I'm gonna bend the motor anyway and put some
man.
cool. That's happening, dude.
Yeah.
I'm
It's got to.
next project.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Or I don't know, man. This is the problem.
There's a lot of options.
For what I want to sell the Century for, I've been thinking about what kind of money I'd have to put on top, if any, to be honest, to get into. Oh man, I want a C1 Corvette so bad. Oh, hardtop C1 Corvette.
Oh, absolutely.
That's okay, because all the C1 Corvettes were convertibles, right?
That's right.
But the hardtop, and my dad, I should have thought about this because my dad had a 60 and he had two 62s. I don't think he had any late 50s C1s, but he had a 60, two 62s, and he might have had a 61. But he had both 62s at the same time. And he even says he wishes he took more photos back then because my mom cruised around in one and he cruised around in the other one. I'm
Oh
like,
man.
that is
amazing.
That is fantastic.
Oh.
And I wasn't around for those days, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But my dad was a Corvette guy. He got into this swing of things of buying them in like boxes, basically, assembling them all, painting them, rebuilding the motors, and then flipping them. And he was making money on them.
Yeah, of course.
And at this time, it was like mid to late 70s, and the cars were really only like 10 years old. Well, yeah, I mean, they were like 15 years old.
Yeah,
at this
10 to
point.
15,
But,
yeah.
but that was his thing. And then once I was born, it all stopped because now it was like kids, in the
course.
mid 80s, life for middle class was, he was working pretty hard to put food on the table. But C1 Corvettes with a hardtop. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful car.
Absolutely.
And so I haven't said much about it publicly, but because my dad had these cars, I've always wanted one. But now that I've kind of grown into my own automotive, like I have my own vision for cars. Not that stands apart. Between my dad and I've got a different vision for cars than my dad does.
Yeah.
I want to do like a C1 Outlaw style Corvette
yeah.
so badly. Like just on its nuts on the floor, big wide steelies, or just, like dark wheels. I usually don't like black wheels, but like black wheels on like this white C1 Corvette that's just hammered on the ground, hard top, a little bit of forward rake,
Yeah.
manual gearbox, hopefully, super just mean and like loud and just rough to drive. And
Yeah.
I don't need a concourse. I want to find, and this is the
Right.
bummer that they're fiberglass. You
I
can't
know,
find
I
one with a
know.
cool
None-
patina. It's
yeah.
like peeling paint or it's got broken fiberglass.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
ugh. So you can't find like a C1 or any Corvette for that matter in like a barn that's got like perfect patina. It's like, it's got some faded paint. I mean, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'd love to find like a forgotten kind of crusty in a way, like a cool, crusty, dark, kind of menacing looking C1.
Yeah, one that you can drive the heck out of and not feel bad about.
If I can get into a C1 for low 20s, I might entertain that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend a ton of money, but
Yeah.
I'd entertain that. Or I spend $900 on a Caravan. Like, seriously. And then like $2,500 on wheels.
Yeah, of course.
And then like another $900 on the 1.9 TDI to get out of a Jetta.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I make, they don't make any like coilovers or, those Caravans are a straight beam rear.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
they're front wheel drive.
Yeah.
I'll just 4-link the rear.
Of course.
4-link the rear, notch the floors.
You
and
could build
just,
a rear axle for it. Camber it out.
Yeah.
It's just a straight beam
Yeah,
axle.
yeah.
Just build one.
Yeah, well, it's like a Volkswagen rear end.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a beam with spindles on each end. Well, not spindles, but yeah, it's just got spindles on it. Yeah,
basically.
But yeah, so and at the end of the day, it's a Caravan. You're not chopping up a Toyota Century. I've been like real nervous about everything I'm doing on that car.
Yeah.
But we bunny trailed hard on that one. We're on the first question.
Yeah, right.
So I apologize to anyone's questions that we don't get to on this episode. But this is what happens when I get talking about K cars.
Yeah. It's all about the Caravans, man.
I get so excited thinking about having a K car.
You
do. I don't know if it was one of the years that we were staying in the same place in Ocean City. Yes.
We have since
2018 when I had the Lotta down there.
Yeah.
That's the year this kid, I don't know who he was. If you're listening, I applaud you, sir. But there was some young kid down there in a bone stock white K-car wagon.
Heck
bone
yeah.
stock with the wire wheel hubcaps, like the simulation wire wheel, like hubcaps, wheel covers, technically.
Yeah.
Cruising, banging laps, hot laps, up and down the strip, bone stock, grandma, Giffer spec, as they say in the UK. Like
Giffer spec, yeah.
Full blown grandma status, wheel gap to the moon. But it looked like it had like 14,000 original miles on it.
Probably did.
That car was beautiful. And so I'm pointing. I'm like, look. And everyone's looking for some crazy car. Like, where? On the other side of that weird grandma car? I'm like, no, it is the grandma car.
Surprise.
Yeah. I got to make it happen. I got to stop denying my my feelings.
You haven't denied it since day one.
I'm publicly talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like I kind of quietly publicly talked about my love for the first gen Avalons.
Yeah.
And I've already figured out how I would the fourth or fifth gen Camry, like D2 coilovers can work with like subtle modifications.
That's
and
right.
I'm like, I want to. A few more have been done since then. This was like 10 years ago. I wanted to like do a first gen Avalon XLS, black. The XLS had the gold trim.
Yeah.
And I wanted the black one with the gold trim. The XLS had the leather interior, and I really kind of went down a rabbit hole with that. I'd never seen any Google images. Were just like some that were like lowered a little bit and still had like big tires or stock wheels. I went as far. And someone might correct me if they know more about Avalons than me, but I highly doubt it as far as first gens go. I remember reading online that the first gen Avalons were built, I believe, in New York. So Toyota built the first gen Avalons here in America.
Okay. Yep.
Ohio or New York or something like that, like Midwest maybe. And Toyota Japan did not manufacture a first gen Avalon. But they did have some for the Japan market, which were built here in America.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about this.
Yeah, I've talked about this. I don't know for sure. If anyone listening does know for sure, definitely message me on Instagram. But I think those that we made here in America for the Japanese market were right-hand drive cars.
Yep.
Which means there might be steering racks and dashboards somewhere.
Or
So
like a car that didn't make it to the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, I was like in the closet about first gen Avalons and like how much
in the closet.
Yeah, and how much I didn't want anyone to know about how much I loved first gen Avalons. Or at the time I hadn't seen anybody like VIP one.
Of course.
Because it's not a VIP platform car, but I always thought,
could be, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess technically like for an American Toyota, it could be, but all of the American Toyotas are the Lexuses technically.
Yeah.
So, But for the Toyota branded cars here in North America, the Avalon was the largest Toyota sedan.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, it'd be awesome to, it was like the flagship Toyota in America, even though the Lexuses are the flagships of Toyota. It'd be cool to somehow find parts or a complete car, a right-hand drive first gen Avalon, and like build it into like this cool like VIP car.
Yeah.
But and then as I started to like, if I sold the car and I had a little bit of budget and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna like, and I was like, what am I doing? There's so many other cool stuff I want than an Avalon.
Yeah, man. Like we were saying, there's not enough time or anything.
God
There's
forbid,
just, like,
God forbid I ever like win the lottery or like somehow fall into some career that I love but pays me a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm stay tuned because I would have the weirdest cars like
It's all over.
because it doesn't matter how much money I have, I would still have a first gen Caravan.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. It's not about money.
Man. Yeah. That's why I love it when I find guys, you run into guys that are like have done very, very well for themselves in business or whatever, but they're car guys and they've like spent a lot of their money on like cool cars.
Right.
Not just like yuppie, like,
The most expensive.
yeah, just the yuppie cars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like people driving around in I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but just like newer Bentleys and those cars.
Lambros.
Yeah, okay, there we go. I was trying to think that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with new Bentleys or Rolls Royces or anything. I actually enjoy seeing most of those cars, but you can tell the type of person. They're the type of person, and I'm sorry for anyone that this offends. They're the type of person that calls their Lamborghini a Lambo. Just don't.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
I don't care how conceited that makes me sound. Just, you can't. It's like calling a BMW a Beamer. And I'll let that one slide before I let Lambo slide.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah.
Just for the record.
Yeah.
And Bimmer is like better than Beamer.
Yeah.
But don't call it a Lambo and don't call it a Rari. Please. Oh, I wish.
Oh, man.
I wish they could see what they look like when they go like, yeah, so I took the Lambo out last weekend. It's like, oh. Either call it by its model name.
Right.
Took
Exactly.
the Gallardo out last
Yes.
weekend. Took the Aventador out last weekend.
Yes.
That sounds so much more sophisticated.
Yeah.
You sound like a sophisticated gentleman, sir. You know? Took the
Instead of
Aventador
saying-
out for a nice spirited drive.
Yeah.
Like, jolly good,
Yeah.
sir. Took the Lambo out.
Took the Lambo out and did some handstands on it.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't.
If-
Joke's on me. I don't have Lambo money. They do. So
Somehow.
But anyway, I don't really care what you call your car. You could call it Susan for all I care. I don't. I really
Karen.
don't. We're just on that subject. So.
Yeah.
Next question.
All right. Sorry to everyone.
Question 2. Yeah. So Fred 1320 video. 25 days. You boys ready?
Oh, boy.
What does Ocean City prep mean to you? Oh yeah, we've already covered that one.
Yeah, we got into that.
But Fred, no, we're not ready. I hope. Here's the thing, man. Like the night before, we always leave. This is a good episode, by the way.
This is.
I'm like super.
I knew when we were talking about doing an episode
cars?
earlier, I was like,
You knew once we started
Caravans and K cars?
spilling coffee.
oh, jeez, you're
my
all excited
gosh.
about
I
Caravan.
literally just spilled coffee all over myself. Take it away, Corey. I gotta go get some paper towels. There's coffee everywhere.
Yeah.
What happened?
You got all excited about the K cars and the Caravans. You went and friggin' spilled your coffee everywhere. That's pumpkin stoke abuse, man.
I know. I shouldn't be wasting any of that
Oh,
stuff.
God. You gotta savor it.
Oh man, I got it all over me. too.
Clean yourself up.
I'm making a mess of myself. This is what I get for making fun of people who call their cars Lambos.
Instant karma, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
What's Fred bringing to Ocean City?
He wanted to bring the Harlequin, but
Yeah.
he was gonna have to trailer it if he did. He thought. Excuse me while I just wipe my crotch.
That's totally
coffee
fine.
stain in here. Luckily, I'm wearing black jeans. So.
Yeah. Per usual.
He wanted to bring the Harlequin, but he didn't want to drive it. He wanted to trailer it, and he wasn't sure if a trailer was going to work out in time or something like that. More than likely, he'll be in the Avant. But Fred,
Yeah.
I know you're probably listening to this, so if you share like a story about this episode, like let us know in that post what you're bringing. It'd be cool to see the Harlequin, but I know that involved more. He's coming from Omaha, Nebraska.
I was just gonna say he's like, what is his trip to? Like
Almost the same,
15?
a little bit more than us, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Like you said, like 15 hours or something.
Yeah.
That's a long ways for a Harlequin to drive there.
Yeah. When I was planning on driving my Mark V cross country to just like this summer, like even like during what was going on, I just wanted to put my bike and my podcast gear in my Jetta,
Yeah.
and just drive cross country.
Yeah.
Zach DePiero was going to follow me in the Harlequin, his Harlequin.
That's right. Yep.
Matt Crook's old Harlequin, and the deal was a little bit more of a longer version than what I promised the gentleman I got my 700 off of. I was like, listen, I'm going to drive it back here under its own power. That's kind of what Zach told Matt. He's like, because he had it transported to the East Coast from LA. He's like, I'm going to drive it out. So Zach was all getting ready to drive that thing. So anyway, I only brought Zach up because you're talking about driving a Harlequin long distance.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what he's bringing. But no, we're not ready. We're not ready. No. It's going to be a photo finish for sure.
Per usual. But
excited to see you. Excited to hang out. Yeah, we'll get a podcast of the century episode with Fred. Get a full length podcast hopefully with Fred. You guys will be able to get some inside details and scoops on 1320 and
behind the camera.
Yeah, yeah. Fred's usually behind the camera. So.
Yeah.
Let's see. Benny, my buddy Benny Wiles, Benny.jw says, what are both of yours and Corey's absolute dream cars that you'd like to own or build? We've answered very similar questions, if not this exact question, on past episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, just off the cuff, if we're talking unobtainable, unless you like, you know, scenario of like winning the lottery or coming into like multiple 7 figures of money, is a 300 SL Gullwing Mercedes for me.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
like that's it. That's the top. That's the top rung. I mean, there's other unobtainable cars. You could talk about 250 GTO Ferraris and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But if I had that money, it's a Gullwing Mercedes.
Yeah.
One like Jay Leno's, which is like an outlaw car.
Right.
It's like super rough. They've got it mechanically sound. It's a Canyon Carver car, but it's like a 7-figure Canyon Carver car.
Yeah.
And obtainable, if I were to liquidate everything and hammer for the next 5 years as hard as I could, you know, and had like $100,000 to spend on a car, you know, like money to be like, I've saved $100,000 to spend on a car.
Yes.
Would probably be, I'm just like trying to like yeah, I'm thinking about caravans, dude. I'm thinking
the $900 Caravan.
I can't stop. I'm like, how many K cars could I buy with $100,000?
$100,000.
$100,000.
100,000 K cars.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It would be unfortunately they're almost hitting this mark now. Would be like Danny's Ferrari. It'd be a late 70s, early 80s 308 GTB in black though. Danny's is red, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But, Ferrari 308 for those listening. The GTB though isn't the Targa. The GTS is an awesome car, but I'm not a Targa guy.
Yeah.
The GTSs are cheaper. You can get into those cheaper. But I've driven Danny's 308 GTB, and as I've mentioned before, I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast, I drove my good friend Danny's 81. It's a 1981 Euro spec, so it's got the nice tiny little bumpers. None of this gigantic freaking
diving boards.
US spec. Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
It's a red, black leather interior, 81 Euro spec, 308 GTB Quattro Valve, and beautiful car. Just unbelievably beautiful. And he's gone through the whole car. He's paint corrected it. He said the wheels are refinished. It's like a beautiful, beautiful car. Had the motor all rebuilt. And I drove it a couple summers ago up a freshly paved windy road through the mountains up through Sandwich, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
beautiful
perfect.
road. And he was like, and he knows my confidence behind the wheel, and you know, and I've done a lot of driving, and he's like, you know, let's go.
Drive it.
And I was like, all right. And I didn't get this initial like euphoric response that I thought I was going to get. I had like this preconceived notion what it was going to be like to drive this car. It was the first Ferrari I'd ever driven. Yeah, first Ferrari I'd ever driven. But it was like one of the ones I would want to drive.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Something vintage, not like this paddle shift, you know, everything's telling you what to do type of thing. And I got in it and we're taking off, and I mean a gated selector, dog leg box, gated selector.
Yep.
cable clutch, like
Yeah.
like
And-
felt like a Volkswagen, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like this, and it's like manual steering, manual brakes.
Yeah.
But then once we got halfway into that drive, and I'm like, really, I mean, dogleg box. So second and third are right in line with each other, and I'm hammering through some of those gears, not hammering, but spiritedly selecting those gears in these turns, and putting my foot to the floor. And it's not this like pin you in your seat feel, but it's responsive. And I realized that euphoric experience I thought I was going to receive, I was actually receiving in a different way.
Yeah.
And I fell more in love with that car than I expected to, because of its visceral attitude, and it's like rough, cable clutch, and just kind of felt like
it's all analog.
Yeah.
It's a driver's car.
and that it was more fun carving with that car than like the straight acceleration, because it just doesn't have that, like, it's a small little transverse V8 in that thing. It's not like it's this crazy all-wheel drive rocket ship. But that'd probably be it. I know I monopolized most of the time on that answer, but
That's quite
an
all right.
an obtainable dream car would be something like that, just off the cuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
I don't know about what about you.
I mean, if you know me, Lancia Delta Evolution 2.
I agree.
That is just, I could talk for hours about it. It's just one of the best looking cars, best sounding cars.
Mm-hmm.
The history behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great car.
I just, and like you were saying, I could grind for a couple years, save some money, not do anything else with cars, and then
Buy one.
go buy one for, they're going from 100 to 120 for like a decent one. So
I think about that a lot. I think about it quite frequently, to be honest. I think about cars that I can't afford, but that I probably could if I really focused.
Yeah.
And that alone makes me want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, not to obtain that tangible, like, material thing, like that car, but to challenge myself and be like, I bet if I hammered to the best of my ability, I bet in a year and a half or 2 years, I could spend $100,000 on a car. And for me, that's massive. I don't even know what $100,000 looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm that guy. And Instagram can paint all sorts of weird pictures of like glorious looking lives. But like, I'm that guy that is like, and I feel like Instagram's pretty honest, pretty transparent, at least mine.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I'm on the ground level. I'm like flipping a car that I really don't want to sell to afford this next car. And I've got a bunch of irons in the fire. I'm trying to like make some money in a bunch of different scenarios.
Yeah.
But to spend $100,000 on a car, it's like, ooh, I should probably buy a house first. You know what I mean? Like, but like,
a garage to put the car in first.
yeah. Well, my dad's always saying that I'm buying all the horses before I've built the barn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
As we speak, I mean, all day yesterday in the monsoon, the Corvair and the 700 are sitting outside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the Century gets, and that's why I've got a covered trailer, not to an enclosed trailer.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can keep one in there if I have to. But yeah, I don't have a garage. I can work out of my father's garage, which is a blessing to work on these projects, but I can't store them in there. So, yeah, but anyway, that challenge feels like I'm almost like challenge accepted.
Yeah.
I'm almost like, ooh, like, it's hard to put your current happiness on hold, though.
It is. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's hard to,
because when you can get just as much happiness out of a Dodge Caravan as you can out of a Ferrari 308 GTP,
Yes.
why grind for 3 years when you could just go buy a Caravan?
Exactly.
Just have one now.
Yeah, you can go buy a dozen, sell a couple of them.
Oh, I look forward to all the photos that you guys will post on Instagram and tag me in of Dodge Caravans.
Yes,
please do
please.
this, because
First gens.
yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah,
Yeah, it's like Eden with his Sienna. Or no. What's the name of that van?
is it a Sienna?
It's a Sienna,
Yeah.
Toyota Sienna.
Yeah, just some crappy like Toyota minivan with like 800 million miles on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that challenge is always in like the forefront of my mind. I'm like, man, if I just like almost to just see what I'm capable of.
Of course, yeah.
And just see, yeah, like, and I feel like one of these years I'll do that. I feel like one of these years I'll put a bunch of hobbies on hold and be like, all right. Because I mean, yeah, at 35, I'm single, no kids, no real anchors. I'm not in debt. I own everything I have. And I'm self-employed, which is, as you know, is a complete rat race half the time.
Yeah.
And you can't really budget yourself because you're on such a crazy roller coaster of income. I almost like look at that lifestyle and I'm like, all right, now's the time where I can, because I don't know what I could make in a year.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
I don't grind as hard as I could with Night Laser because I'm trying to take some days to write music. I need to work on all the freaking car projects. The YouTube stuff takes forever. The podcast stuff takes a lot of, not just the time we're doing this now and the time I'll have editing this afterwards, but like the mental bandwidth it takes.
Yeah, of
course. to just think about it all the time when I could be thinking about generating money with Night Laser and with the business and flipping cars. Flip the Corvair, flip the 700, flip the Century, you know, just pile and build and just see what you're, and not be tied to anything. Don't have any sentimental value to anything. And although I do, clearly, you know how I feel about the Corvair and the 700.
Of course, yeah.
And my dad would be all about me selling those cars if I could profit money. He'd be all about it because that's what he's done his whole life too. But, yeah, those cars are off limits, you know, as far as I'm concerned. But it's kind of a cool, because you almost feel like you've got the world in your hand. Because when you start thinking about this, you're like, oh, I could literally do anything. I could sell all these cars, or I could grind harder, or like in your position, you could go to work, but then from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., it's like job number 2.
Exactly.
Or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And you can just stop doing that whenever you want.
Yeah.
So it's like,
exactly.
All right, I'm going to take 2021 and 2022, and I'm going to hammer.
Yeah.
And see where I'm at in 2023.
Don't hit me up. I'm gonna hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to think about that kind of stuff. So anybody listening, it's not like what they feel might be like a dead end job. It's like, man, you can literally do anything.
Yeah. Literally.
And I know there's all these like TED Talks and motivational speakers like Gary Vee and all these guys. Now I get the motivation that they inspire people with, but it's like you can actually do that.
Yeah.
You can actually like grind from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. every night. It's more than likely not going to kill you, you know?
No, you'll live.
And
You'll get used to it.
You can build some sort of brand or business on the side. And see, unfortunately for me, I'd been laid off from my job when I started Night Laser. So I didn't have it as like a supplement income on top of my normal job. And then once it was making more money than my day job, but required more time, I quit my day job and focused. You know, I started from nothing, no income with Night Laser. You know, I flipped a car and a few other like sets of wheels I didn't want to sell in order to purchase my first laser machine. I had no idea how to use it. And so I went about it a little bit differently, but it was out of necessity. But yeah, I think about that sometimes. I'm like, man, what if I just like didn't hang on to anything and I just hammered for a full year and then just went and bought that 308 GTB and just be like, well, I did it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, who knows? But then on the ground level, I love what I'm doing a lot.
Of course, it's like we were talking about earlier. It is the little things.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, it's all out there. You just gotta go get it.
It is. It's a crazy world, man. It's so crazy. You can do anything you put your mind to. We're all wired the same when it comes down to it.
We've changed into a motivational podcast now, so welcome aboard.
We're following the name, purpose and passion.
Yes.
Follow your passion with purpose. Mason Gavin, you guys ready to come back to Chattanooga just to work on cars again? Ha ha ha.
Hell yes.
Because the last time we went down for Riverside in March and ended up working on Carly's wagon. Oh, you did most of the work on that.
And Mason's wagon too.
Mason's wagon.
Yeah. I'll come down there and work on your cars full time, man. You know that.
There you go.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to come to Chattanooga first. I'm not ready to come back to Chattanooga and work on cars either. I'm hoping by the time we get to Chattanooga, we don't have to work on my junk either.
Yeah.
Like the truck, the car.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hoping everything's good there.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
Listen, Mason, man, I'm ready. I'm so ready to sit down at Waffle House with you guys. I'm so ready to get burritos across the street from Waffle House.
Man,
I forgot the name of that place.
I forgot.
The burrito joint across the street from Waffle House in Chattanooga. I am so ready to make a specific trip down to Dalton, Georgia and get Oakwood Cafe. Please.
Oh my God.
Please. If you are in North Georgia, get yourself to I-75 and get to Dalton and go to Oakwood Cafe. That place is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that place is really good.
Yeah. Oh man.
Excited to see you guys.
My mouth is literally watering right now. I want that corn casserole in my mouth.
Dude. Yeah. Corn casserole, the chicken casserole.
Yeah.
The broccoli casserole, the sweet tea there.
Oh.
And the mac and cheese there. It's all so good.
Yeah.
The turkey casserole or whatever it was, it had like cranberry sauce
Yeah,
in
I
it.
was
It's like
gonna
a
say
Thanksgiving,
the Thanksgiving casserole.
Oh, it's so good. Everything they make there is so good.
It's so
Proper Southern cooking.
yeah.
Man, we got a lot of questions. I'll try to hammer through these. Let me see. Truls Venman from Norway. He asked a few questions, but they're kind of spread out amongst all the other ones. So let me see here. He says, preparing your Ford for its new owner or just giving it some much needed TLC? It's a good question because, as I've mentioned earlier in this podcast, I've decided to keep it. So I'm doing all the TLC aesthetically and mechanically that the truck really needs in order for it to be like a better truck for me, and that ultimately, makes me more excited about owning the truck.
Yeah.
So I think it'll ultimately be a truck I own, like for a while.
Yeah.
Unless something else pops up that I can't live without.
Of course, which
that seems like
We'll see.
like a good truck.
It is, yeah. And
I've always wanted one. So the aesthetic of the OBS Fords, I when I look in my backyard, I just love looking at that truck. I'm like, yep, I'm glad I own that truck.
yeah,
So
especially now that it's shiny.
yeah, oh man, that feels so good.
Yeah.
Got a few more panels to do and she's done.
Yeah.
He also says, will we be getting some teasers from Corey's 190E or do we have to wait until Ocean City? So as we did mention earlier,
Yeah.
hopefully
Teasers only probably.
hopefully you get some build content going.
Exactly, yeah.
And I can like post it from my YouTube.
Yep.
Or Instagram alike. Basically for our joint Ocean City and Riverside effort,
Yep, exactly.
as it were. Truls also asks, which oddball car do you fit? Oh yes, I told you this one earlier.
Yeah.
This is given. I may have talked about this on the podcast before, so I'm not blowing too much smoke. If I end up making it happen, though, no one's gonna know. But he says, on which oddball car do you fit a trailer hitch, and what do you trailer behind it?
Oh yeah.
I think I've already talked about it, but listen, I've got a major penchant for a pre-war BMW motorcycle, like 20s, 30s. R4, whatever those generations were, the shaft drive, old pre-war BMWs. Like I want one so bad. I know we have talked about this on podcast episodes before because we were talking about bikes.
Right, yeah.
But I want to utilize my friend Rob Redwich from Edelweiss Customs in Germany, who makes a living on finding barn find motorcycles, vintage motorcycles in barns, and getting them mechanically sorted and selling them. But he leaves them looking like patinaed and like. I want to connect with Robert. The pre-war BMWs are so expensive.
They are, yeah.
So expensive. But again, if I sell the Century, there's something else that, maybe I could afford a pre-war BMW bike and a Caravan, But anyway, beggars
probably.
can't be choosers. But you guys might know where I'm going with this. I want a pre-war BMW, 20s or 30s BMW, patinaed preferably, because that's what I would have the money for. I wouldn't have the money for like a fully restored showroom condition one, but like kind of rough but mechanically sound, something I could ride. And I would build a small, not even with an axle, probably with spindles, small, real low sitting trailer to tow behind the 700.
Absolutely.
Because now we've got a 1960 700 coupe with a 4-cylinder in it. So it's got some towing power for something that small behind
1600 in it.
And a 1500, but still.
Oh, 1500,
it's not the 2-cylinder that was in it originally.
Yeah.
Which was the same motor that the bike would have.
Exactly.
That 2-cylinder opposed BMW. It was a motorcycle motor
I know
that they put in that 700. Yeah. So 1960 bagged and body drop, Beetle powered 700, towing a custom slammed little trailer with a pre-war BMW motorcycle on it.
Yeah, that's
We talked about that today before we talked about Truls' question, because today's the last day of bike week here in my area, and we were cruising down the Weirs Boulevard in the Corvair, and I was like, man, now is when I wish that came to fruition, because we'd be cruising in the 700 laid out on the rockers with a pre-war BMW bike behind it, and nobody there at Bike Week would know what that 700 was.
absolutely
Hard,
not.
unless it was somebody that was stationed in Germany and saw one putting around.
Yeah, maybe.
No one would know what that kind of car was. And towing some pre-war bike. That's another like realistic project if I sold the Century and decided not to invest in something with like all of that money. That bike would probably eat all that money.
I mean, depending, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
we'll
expensive,
see.
man.
They are. They're so expensive.
And getting it here.
Yeah, luckily getting a bike here would be way cheaper than getting a car here.
It's a lot
Well,
smaller.
for the most part.
Yeah.
You crate it up and Send it that way. Yeah, moving on with the questions. Let's see. Respected Criminal says, does Corey want to buy my E39 Touring manual? Just saying.
Yeah, man.
Yes is
Wagons
the answer.
forever.
Yeah, speaking of wagons.
Yeah.
Manual E39 Touring Wagon. So I had a silver E39 Touring Wagon.
Oh, that's right.
With
You
the
did.
M package. Had the M package, had the air suspension in the rear,
That's
M
right.
steering wheel, M wheels, style 5.
The mesh ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, style 5.
But it was an automatic. Oh, and if it's a 540 touring wagon with the V8, now we're talking.
That'd be friggin' amazing. That'd be
Six-speed,
super rare.
six-speed
but-
manual V8 touring E39.
What was that? What was the Instagram?
Respected Criminal.
All right. I'll hit you up.
Yeah. You want a 190?
Yeah, right.
A freshly bagged 190. Let's see. Well, to kind of go along with the motorcycles, Plasti J says, do you like Hondas? And what is your opinion about motorcycles? Well, we just spoke on that. And actually, you've spoken on your love for motorcycles on past episodes.
Yeah.
But yes, I love Hondas.
Yeah. I don't know if I've told you, but I've been secretly looking for a clean stock EF, preferably the EF sedan.
Cool.
Honda Civic.
I love those.
And they just don't exist anymore, man.
Especially not around here.
Exactly.
That's clean.
Yeah.
A lot of Honda kids bought those up, and most of them are clapped out anyway. But, I've already talked about Honda shuttles.
Oh, yeah.
The last episode 20.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about like if I could only drive one car for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's a Honda shuttle. But it's the all-wheel drive 6-speed manual Honda shuttle on air. So it was versatile. It could go places that a low car couldn't, but it could also sit on the ground. And I've got
all-wheel
indoor
drive.
I've got indoor storage for things.
Yeah.
'Cause it's basically a small little SUV.
Yeah.
And it's a Honda, so it'll run to the end of time.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't, parts are $2.
And Legos, and they just bolt together.
Yep. And so I love Hondas.
I like Hondas. I've just never liked the aesthetic that the scene has kind of put on them.
Yeah,
I guess if that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah, my first car, the first car I had when I was 16, I had a couple before that because I was like way into cars and spent my money on cars before I could even drive. But my first car as a 16-year-old like legal driver was an 89 Honda Accord.
Yeah.
And speaking on the Accords, one of my favorite Hondas ever right now are the new Gen Accords.
That's right. Yeah, the brand new Accords.
I love.
Amazing.
They resemble like Audi. It's got like Audi blood in it.
Yeah.
Like long sloping hatch.
Yeah.
Or rear glass, I should say. Yeah, I love the new Accords so much. And if I could justify like a car payment, if I did like a ton of commuting where like it would behoove me to have a new car.
Yeah.
A new Accord would be a contender.
Yeah.
Because I'd really want a Volvo S90.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't looked into the numbers, but I'm willing to bet the Honda Accord, even the hybrid version, is like way cheaper than
I'm
an
sure.
S90. But Alex McGinnis 09 says, any updates on the move south? Putting it off for a year. I know I did episode 20 when I did my solo podcast. I did talk about how I was hoping to be possibly with you at the same time, was to hopefully be a Tennessee resident by October. And with the year, with just how sporadic and inconsistent my workflow has been this year, and how much stuff would be involved in the move.
Yeah.
The amount of cars, my recording studio, the laser shop, just everything, all the parts I've stockpiled. It would just take a lot. And yeah, if you were involved, you want a job lined up before you get down there.
Yeah.
And that was just another variable where if I was ready to go for October 1st and you quite weren't yet, I didn't want to get into a place down there that was like a little beyond my reach financially and have work slow down again down there.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, now I've really shot myself in the foot. So yeah, I'm hoping for 2021. I really am.
Yeah.
Because I know for sure you asked me this question come this January here in New Hampshire. I am itching to get out of here.
End of November, we'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the weird way this year has gone, I've kind of just taken a step back and I'm just living my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm trying not to stress about making things happen. I'm just going to let them happen, sort of.
I just topped the glass off, so I was like, yeah, we're done. Oh,
yeah,
you already topped yours
I did,
off.
yeah.
I'm living the same way, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of...
Just trying not to stress, I guess, but...
2020 has... I mean, I feel... even though my work has slowed down, being self-employed this year has been incredibly difficult, and I was too stubborn to file any sort of unemployment or grants.
I get
even
it,
though I was
man.
eligible for all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I get it.
But that being said, I still feel fortunate because I wasn't sitting on fumes financially before this whole thing happened. So I felt even though March and April were basically null for work, like I was like, no work came in. Nobody was spending money.
Yeah.
Because I make merchandise for businesses.
I know it.
So these businesses that are now cutting all their employees and are forced to close or whatever aren't spending money on their merchandise.
And
line.
you make merchandise for events, which events weren't happening.
Oh yeah, yes, and still
I get
barely any. So, but that being said, I feel like you and I are both in the fortunate category where you've been working all the way through this.
Yeah.
So you've had a steady job all the way through this, and I don't feel like I feel like I could be in a better financial position this year than I am now if it was a normal 2020 year, but I still feel very fortunate for where I am.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I'm not. I stress every day anyway, just because that's what you do when you're self-employed and you're not feeding a cash cow every day. You know what I mean? Like, so I stress about that stuff anyway, but I'm not. 2020 hasn't stressed me out the way people who have lost their jobs.
I know it.
Or lost their businesses. You know, there's a whole darker world out there right now that people are dealing with than we are. So I feel very fortunate in that case, but it's been very frustrating having to put like the move on hold and stuff. But I'm using it as a glass half full scenario because although I didn't want to stick around for another 6 months of like brutal winter up here and like store all the cars and, you know, I got to pay to do all that because I don't have a garage to put them in.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as opportunity to, you know, obviously stick around here to be with my family, my parents and my grandmother and all that. But I'm excited to hammer on the cab over this winter.
Yeah.
Because I'm using that as justification. I'm like, all right, if I'm not going to move, because if I was moving in October, I leave that truck unfinished.
I know it.
And then it only really gets worked on, you know, when I come up here or when my dad really feels like wrenching on it alone, which every now and then he might. But that truck is so big and we keep it pulled away from the shop that it's like, it's kind of a production to get that thing up near the shop or in the shop. And then if the cab has to come off a handful more times as we finish building like the doghouse and getting the motor finished and all that. So I'm using that justification as like, all right, this winter I'm going to try to make a lot of, or I'm going to try to gain a lot of ground on that project.
Yeah.
Because it'd be great when I'm ready to move that thing's like yard drivable, or even if the back's not finished, like as far as like a flatbed or whatever I decide I ultimately want to do is like its function. The truck's function, hopefully it's cabin chassis wise, it's like finished and can drive.
Right.
I'd like to think we're a few months of work away from that. So that feels pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the updates on the move south. But it's more than likely going to happen.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
I'm not on, nor have I ever, but I don't, you know, maybe in the future I might, but I've never been on any dating apps. I'm not entertaining dating anybody because I'm honestly, I bring this up because I fear that I'll like fall in love and end up staying here and I will resent them for it. I'm like,
I already hate
what were
you
you
for
thinking?
it.
What were you thinking? Liking me and coming into my life and giving me happiness, and now I'm stuck here. So I love the fact because I've been in long distance relationships, and obviously I've been in a scenario where I've been dating somebody who was, and I'm not talking about the last relationship either, because that couldn't have ended soon enough. But like, so I dated a girl from Nashville, Tennessee for a while, Rochester, New York. I can't remember a couple others when I was in my early 20s, but it basically came down to someone was going to have to move if this was going to like continue, you know, throughout. I mean, the girl I dated from Rochester, New York, we dated for almost 2 years, and she traveled to Boston for work a lot. So she was out my way a lot anyway. But if it's a scenario where like they're planted in an area, like the girl I dated from Nashville was a graphic designer for Warner Brothers Music, worked on Music Row in Nashville. Her family was there. That was her dream career. And I'd already lived in Nashville because I was roommates with her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And they had broken up, and then we kind of connected. Her and my sister were best friends. So.
Yeah.
But we ended up connecting after they'd broken up and after I moved back to New Hampshire. But it was one of these things where she wasn't going to move to New Hampshire. She hated the cold. She had a good job, and our family was in Nashville. So I was going to have to move back to Nashville. And at the time, in 2014, late 13 into 14, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be up here. And so the relationship ran its course, and it was like, all right, well, I'm not going to move to Nashville. You're not moving up here. So jokingly, that's what I'm like not entertaining right now. I'm like, nope, I'm not dating anybody. I'm focusing on where I want to go and what I want to do. And that is just that.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, I don't need that.
No.
I dive deep. I like when I'm in a relationship, I'm like, I'm meeting them halfway, or going my last relationship. I went the whole way.
Yeah, same.
Went the whole way on foot and wore out the soles of my shoes. But I don't want any of that. I'm that actual definition of like a single man in his mid 30s who has realized he's far happier alone than he is in a relationship. And I get the happiness that stuff brings to the table. And obviously the right person will be a positive addition to your life through and through in every aspect.
Yeah.
For the most part, nobody's perfect, and I know that's out there. But since I know that's out there, and I'm just so busy and so goal orientated and so focused, I'm just not, I don't want to stay here. So yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
And when I'm shoveling snow in my driveway and I'm like cursing myself out for still being here, people are like, buy a snowblower. I'm like, no, that's me deciding I live in New Hampshire now. Like, as long as I don't buy a snowblower, and I've got a lot, I got a lot of stuff to shovel.
I know.
When we get a foot of snow overnight, and I know for sure the amount of shoveling I have to do and how bad my back and shoulders are going to hurt by the end of the day, I use that as motivation to move. If I bought a snowblower, I'm like, I'm accepting that I live here now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got on that bunny trail. Oh, updates on moving south. That's how we got there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. C. Greer 20.
Yeah, Chris.
Current opinions on Plasti Dip. You've got
this is funny because
you've got stake in this one.
Yeah. Back when I was Plasti Dipping cars, basically that's how Limitless Autoworks started.
Limitless Corey.
Yep, Chris was one of my first customers back in like 2012 or something when Plasti Dip first started.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's come a long way. If you've seen anything on liquid wrap, dude, it's insane. You can match a paint job with whatever you want.
Technology's come a long way on that too. So
yeah,
it's hard to like give an opinion on
exactly
the fad in 2013 or something.
And nowadays it's you need a full paint booth and it's sprayed like paint. The only difference between that and paint is that it's removable when you want to change the color. You know what I mean?
Can you like buff it and stuff?
Oh yeah, you can wet sand it, buff it. It's completely glass like a clear on a car. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it's come a long way. I just got out of it.
I'm sure it's similar to like snowboarders and skiers though. I'm sure there's a lot of paint like OG paint guys that are like
oh, absolutely.
That bad.
Yeah, cuz it is still a completely different process from painting a car.
Yeah.
And I know from a lot of guys that have paint like body shops that tried to do liquid wrap and they're like, nah, I just can't do this.
Yeah.
It's completely
a different animal.
Yeah, it's totally different.
And I mean, so you've got a better opinion about it than I do, because when I think of Plasti Dip, I think of a satin purple Audi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it looks like you sprayed it with like the Lowe's Plasti Dip spray can.
Exactly. And there's like
that's what I think of when I think of Plasti Dip.
Yeah, there's a what's the word? There's a lot of kids that did it themselves and put this image on Plasti Dip.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't done at a professional shop.
And that's what
it just looks. Yeah, that's what everybody thinks about.
That's the image I have of it for sure.
But I mean, if you guys have followed me on Instagram for a long time, you've seen some of the cars that I've even done myself, and it doesn't look like that.
Yeah,
purple satin.
But when someone says
homegrown,
I know. When someone says Plasti Dip, I think of like an Audi A4, like a B6 or
B6.
Yeah, like or newer. You know what I mean? Like a I don't know. And it's like matte or satin purple, and it looks like it's rubber.
Yeah,
and you can't even and if you like wipe it with a rag, the rag will like stick, and your hand will slide off the rag. And you're like, ooh, what? You know what I mean? Like that's what I think of when I think of
Plasti. Because that's kind of the image that's been put on it.
Yeah,
but, it's funny.
The lady swoops. I told you this one earlier.
Oh yeah.
If I make Corey cookies, will he help swoops out again?
Dude,
I
let
have
me
not-
tell you about these cookies because
Yeah.
I didn't tell you earlier.
When we stopped at Swoops' shop in New York on our way home from Chattanooga, and he was on the podcast, yet Jessica did not make cookies for that stop.
Right.
So I did not partake of said cookies.
Yes. So, as you guys know, I went down for a week and worked for Swoops. And his wife made us food several times for lunch and cookies. The first day she brought these cookies, we sat down for lunch, had my lunch, bit into one of these chocolate chip cookies, and it was the best chocolate chip cookie that I've ever had. Like,
Awesome.
I'm not playing this up. And I'm sitting there eating one, and I'm into my second one, and I'm like, Greg, these two are vegan. How are they eating chocolate chip cookies? And I'm like, wait, are these vegan? They're like, yep. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just floored. Like,
Amazing.
no way these are
Dude,
vegan.
Vegan food is so good.
Oh, man.
It's so good. Like there's vegan options. Like the last girl I was dating, her roommate, I don't remember if her roommate was like full vegan or not, but liked cooking vegan stuff.
Yeah.
and had made like a vegan taco, like meat and like tacos. Like I had like a taco night, and she made like like the cheese was like a supplement, product or whatever, and the meat was like a vegan taco meat, and they were fan-freaking-tastic.
Yes.
They were so good. So I'm like, I'm not vegan, but I'll
Yeah,
try anything.
I'm the same way. Like, I like a lot of vegan foods.
Like I'll eat a cheeseburger or a Philly cheesesteak, but
Yeah.
But if you give me like something vegan and you're like, dude, it's pretty good, I'll try it, and if it's good, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Like I'm all over it.
Yeah, like one day we had like spaghetti and meatballs, but it was all vegan. It was
Right.
freaking amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
yes, Lady Swoops, I will come down and eat vegan food and help Greg.
And if you make more cookies, I will come and watch.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, let's see. There's a few others that we kind of already glassed over in just conversation. T1 Riley says, have either of you thought about getting into drift cars? So
Yes.
in 2011, I actually had a couple. I had I wish I never sold it, because now, oh my goodness, now this would be like a bring a trailer car. So I had a Virginia, the state, like from Virginia, rust free, unmolested S13 coupe. Like
Dang.
a Nissan S13 240 SX.
Rare.
Coupe. And it was rust free. It had a little bit of work done to it when I bought it. It was,
But it was all one color.
yes sir.
Super rare.
You know Casey Cool?
Oh, it sounds familiar.
He's from like the Dover area. He's younger than me. He was into BMX. That's how I knew Casey. This was 2011, so this was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He was in his early 20s at the time, and was getting into drifting, and was like, from what I remember, he was like really kind of getting good. Like an up and coming like local drift kid.
Yeah.
And he had this car, and he sold it to me for a song, because I wanted to get into drifting. So
Yeah,
he was
of
like,
course.
hey, I'll sell you this car, because it was like a car he had acquired, but it was bone stock. It was on coilovers. It had like a stage 2 clutch in it or something. I don't remember. I feel like that was what was told to me.
Yeah.
And it had like the ratchet button, had like the drift button modification on the e-brake, so it didn't ratchet.
Yeah.
And a stock 2.4 KA in it, and there were 2.4s, I think, right?
Yeah.
And so I bought that car and welded the diff. I'd never welded a diff in a car. I took it apart.
Yes.
And mind you, I grew up on German cars. Always had Mark 1 Rabbits, Jettas, Mark 2s. I've had so many Mark 2s. The Volkswagen, the B3 Passat.
Yeah.
I've just had, daily driver B5 Passats, my Mark 5 I daily now. Just always had Volkswagens and BMWs and stuff, and Mercedes, obviously. When I I put that car up, the S13 coupe, and I got underneath, I didn't even know what to expect. I'm like, I'm pulling the diff out.
Yeah.
I've never done this on one of these cars, and this was in 2011. So this was before like everyone and their brother had an S13.
Yeah.
And I look underneath, and I'm looking at the axles, and I'm looking at the flanges, and I'm looking at the diff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're 13 mil through bolts with nuts on the backside. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I put a 13 mil on one end, a 13 mil on the other, and I took the bolts out.
Yeah.
This wasn't the triple square, and you're rounding it out, and you got to put vice grips on it, and you got to wiggle it back and forth, and just to do axles in a Volkswagen. Yep. I'm like, oh, I get it now. I want like Nissans and like Toyotas.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want, why am I messing with these stupid German cars? Yeah. So I get the diff out, opened it up, drained it, obviously opened it up. And I'd seen online, the four corners where everybody's welding in. Not this whole throw a bunch of hardware, nuts and bolts in there to fill stuff up. I'd seen that back in the day. It's what
and I'm like, I've seen that. I thought that was a joke. I'm not.
From what I heard, that wasn't a joke. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds like incredibly horrifying.
Yeah.
Like just as like space. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I'd seen people welding to the case too, like welding the gears and welding to the case.
Weird.
And I'm like, ooh, that doesn't, and I don't know. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'm not like a self-proclaimed like fabricator, but that doesn't seem like a good idea. So although I planned on that car staying a 2.4 KA, NA, KA, and just clutch kicking the daylights out of this car to keep it sideways.
Yeah, of course.
I figured I liked the idea of this car being an underpowered car that forced you to be a good driver.
That was the Japanese way of drifting.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I wanted it slammed on like 15s, like totally not
barely drivable.
Like could not drive a course that was bumpy. You know what I mean? Like because the belly was going to be on the ground. Yeah. I was going to be that idiot out there, not necessarily with a ton of camber, but I was going to be that idiot out there that did not have. I'm telling you, let's talk about how ugly. And I mean capital U ugly FD cars are.
I know.
Okay, so now I'm talking 2011, 2012 FD cars.
Yeah.
Where it's before there was like all this crazy big money, I think in 2011, that's back when Ryan Turk was still driving for ExxonMobil and Red Bull. So there's like proper FD cars. But like I've always loved the mountain carving toge or tug, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Like Japanese drift cars where it's function and form. They're slammed, they're fitted, they look awesome sitting still, they look awesome cruising down the highway or down the boulevard, but then they make it to the mountains at night and they drift these things.
Exactly. Yep.
Small wheels, natural camber, like not like for the sake of camber, but like it's independent rear suspension and the way the fronts work out with the control arms, like when you lower the car, they just negative camber a little bit.
Yeah.
But like making them look good. And every time I saw like an FD car, and I get it, they have their own purpose and they're set up the reason why they're set up.
Right.
But when I saw an FD car sitting in the pit or just sitting, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
of course,
wheel gap, and it's in the rear always seemed like it had positive camber.
Yeah.
It was probably set to 0, but it just always looked like it had positive camber. And I'm like, that is the most ugly car I get it. It's got a purpose. I know. It's got a function.
It's built. Yeah.
But I just like looking at cars and I like what I like. And I just always hated that. So when I had this S13, and I never got to the point where I was driving events with it. I never drove an event. I'll make that clear. I never drove at a drift event with it. I did slide the car all the time, but I was never on a track with it. But
course, Mexico.
I wanted, yes, sir. I wanted this thing bellied out, slammed, like not a car you didn't really want to drift with because it wasn't that good at drifting, because it's not set up, I don't know, because it's like slammed. But anyway, welded the diff in it, and I remember finishing the diff, putting it in, putting fluid in it, bolting it all back up, and not even waiting till like the next morning. I literally I got in that car, went down the road, pulling out of the drive, I'm like, I'm a drifter. Skirt. But this is before every nerd with a 240 was in like your grocery store parking lot,
I know,
parking, going with the locked rear end. This was like all I heard when guys were out drifting, and there wasn't a lot of guys up here doing that, and there's a cul-de-sac up the street from me on like a side street, and I went up there, and it was like 2 a.m. But it had a stock exhaust on it. Like I wasn't trying to make the thing loud. I wanted this thing like street, like on like a somewhat rainy day when the roads were kind of wet or the parking lots or industrial complexes were wet.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in there as like a night rider, like
stealthy
ninja.
Like...
Nobody knew I was in there, and I could slide around. At that point, you had 1,000 horsepower because the ground's wet, and you can and nobody can hear you.
Exactly.
Your tires aren't squealing. Your car's not making a bunch of noise.
Yeah.
And so I had like a whole theme going for this car, and I went up to that cul-de-sac, and I was never afraid to, I mean, because I spent a lot of time on the ice. You know, my dad was the city chairman for the ice racing committee. So racing on the ice is drifting.
Absolutely.
So I was like ready. I wasn't nervous about the only thing, because we were always in front wheel drive cars on the ice. The only thing I had to learn was like clutch kicking and learning how to. I'd never really spent any time doing like heel toe stuff, like clutch in, rev match while braking. You know, like I messed around with it just because I'd heard that was like a thing that's needed when you're on a track or whatever, or even for just racing. When you're downshifting, coming into a turn, and you need the rev match for your downshifts and you're braking. You know, I got all that, but like, I came in to that cul-de-sac, freaking hot, and I can't remember. Boy. I had my E30 before that. I won't go into a massive story about the E30, but I came into that cul-de-sac, you know, third gear, but dropped. When I clutch kicked, I brought it into second at the same time. Yeah. So my power band was like as far as that K wanted to go. Oh, yeah. And just, you know, and you're not going that fast. 30 maybe, but that feels like 100.
Oh, yeah.
And not just did donuts. Like I'd do a couple and then I'd go back out and then I'd come back into the cul-de-sac because I was all about entry. Yep. And so that car, I ultimately moved to Nashville. So I sold that car. I didn't get a chance to like really, I didn't buy wheels for it. It was always on stock wheels. I never like really got a chance to really go deep into that car. But it was a rust-free stock body S13 coupe, like gray or dark green. Might have been dark green. I'm colorblind, so I don't know. Yeah. It was like dark green, I think. It was a beautiful car with the tan interior. But before that, pretty sure, it was before that, I had an E30 IS that I traded my Volkswagen for that was like already kind of clapped out. It had like this aftermarket body kit on it, but it looked like a drift body kit. Yeah. It wasn't, but it looked like one. Yeah. And you've seen photos of the car.
I have, yeah.
And I ran 14-inch wide steelies on this thing. And I know some of you guys that have been following me on Instagram for years. I took this car to H2O in Ocean City in 2011, and it was matte black E30 IS with like full body kit, front clip, side skirts, rear skirt, like drift looking body kit. Yeah. Which I was really into. I was like, it was like that 90s looking body kit. Yeah, yeah. On 14x9 and 14x10 wide steelies with 195 45s on them. You could fit two iPhones side by side on the top of the barrel on the wheel between the lip and the tire. Yeah. It was an IS, so it had an LSD in the rear, so I didn't weld that diff. But I built that drift e-brake handle. Yeah. Like a full tall handle, no ratchet. Like I built like a full pull mechanism. It was all mechanical, but I had enough leverage to where you could just pull that a little bit and it was like wheels were locked right up. Yeah. That's the car I really learned, like, for what I assumed were like fast entries, like third gear, top of third entry. This wasn't no 100 mile an hour fifth gear Ryan Turk entry, but I drove with a few friends from southern New Hampshire in some like industrial complexes and like around the Nashua area with some friends that were like really good drivers, and I loved it. Man, I loved it. Like clutch, like, and when I had that handle set up in the E30, I was all about the e-brake entries. I'd top a third and just way before the entry we're trying to make, like clutch and pull and just let the thing and then when I'm getting ready, like just with the clutch still in and just dump that clutch and go with the e-brake and I'd dirt drop a whole bunch of times because I was just like, kind of fearless with the car and just trying to figure the thing out. But it was on 14s, like small tire 14s, bellied out. I raised the motor, drive shaft angle was all off. The thing just clunked. It clunked and clanked.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just kind of like a beater.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
I put it over a couple stone walls or into a couple stone walls, and you know, I busted that body kit all up. And
of course,
I never drove any events, but I didn't pursue driving like drift car. I didn't pursue that community simply because I was honest with myself with my car ADD. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to manage pouring money on repair and maintenance and progression on the same car over and over and over again. Yeah. And I like weird stuff. So at the time, I wasn't sold on like an E30 or 240 because it's like everybody else had those. If I was going to get into the drift thing, I wanted to have something weird and different, but that would be way more expensive
and harder to get parts.
Yes, exactly. So
I get it.
So I got out of it basically. I feel like I should have, if I was going to get into it, it should have been then, because it was almost like ground floor for people in the Northeast.
Yeah.
There wasn't like Turk was, I mean, and I grew up with, well, for the most part, I grew up with Evan, Ryan, and Justin through BMX.
Yeah.
Because they all rode BMX, and they live like an hour from here. So I knew them, and Ryan was always like into drifting. And then all of a sudden, a few years later, all of a sudden he's like driving for ExxonMobil,
of course,
and Red Bull. And it's like, oh, whoa, he's like pro.
Yeah.
Because I'd stayed more in touch with like Justin than anyone, because we both play music and we're both into BMX and stuff. Ryan's twin. But, yeah, and then once he got big, more and more people in our area obviously like got into it, and it's really cool how the scene has developed.
Yeah,
but
is.
like I'm not that interested in getting into it now because of its dilution. Like there's just like just so many kids into it, and I don't want to get involved in like a scene that's got a lot of drama. But like,
yeah,
that's a long-winded answer. But I when I saw that question come in, I'm like, I got to talk about the two cars that like I almost got involved in like seriously drifting. I'd love to, though. If I had like expendable money for a project, I'd love to put together like just a box drift car, like an S13 hatch, this, that, and the other thing, like whatever the kit is. Like, all right, this is your entry car, but I'd want it to be underpowered. I like the idea of a high horsepower car where you're just steering with the throttle the whole time. Yeah, that sounds fun too. But I love that Japanese aesthetic where they're like, I kind of want a saloon. Yeah. I mean, I just said S13 hatch, but I'd like to have like some sort of like rear-wheel drive, like 4-door Japanese model car, and slammed in like total form, but you just beat the bag out of the thing.
Right. Yeah.
On the track. I'd like that. I've got the enclosed trailer now.
It's like, exactly.
I was like, I kind of got a setup.
Put some racing stickers on it, and you're good to go.
Team number 5. Please don't steal this trailer.
Yeah, for real.
Running billboard. There's a race car in here. Don't steal my trailer.
Yeah, there's nothing valuable in here.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I should put like Bed Bath and Beyond knickknacks or something. that trailer would never get stolen.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So to involve you in that question, obviously.
Yeah.
Ever thought about getting into drift cars?
Of course, man. Of course.
It's fun.
Especially, as some of you guys know, I worked at Ace. We built a lot of drift cars, and like, there's something about just being around them and like working on them that you want to do on yourself. You know what I mean? Like there were a few times where like we'd finish a build and we'd get it running and dyno it, and like, all right, we gotta take this up the street and make sure it works.
Got to do a couple twisty turnies.
Yep. Close course, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Professional driver. Do not attempt.
Professional driver. So obviously, I wanted to do it, but I'm kind of like you mentioned. If I were to do it, I'd go all in. Yeah. I'd get all the top of the line suspension stuff, all the angle kits, all, keep it relatively underpowered. I wouldn't go for anything like super crazy.
Yeah, I want to drive the doors off a car.
Reliability would be big for me.
Yeah,
stuff like that. But yeah, I'd go all into it, and then I'd be afraid to friggin' wreck it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I wouldn't want a clapped out car, but I'd want to
exactly
the way I'd want to drive. I would have a clapped out car because I'd be pushing my. It's the same thing and there's a reason why a lot of skaters and BMXers got into drifting, because we just loved that feeling of like progression and like living on the edge.
Push the envelope.
Yeah, and I know for sure, even just like the, as you say, closed course driving, like fun skidding around that I did. Like I caught that itch. I'm like, all right, go faster, like or don't like manji or whatever between those two turns in that complex. Like just
hang it,
just power through it.
Yeah.
And if the car doesn't have it, just clutch kick the daylights out of it, just to keep the thing sideways. I like that. I like that idea. Now that wouldn't come without the sacrifice of like door panels,
exactly,
quarter panels, and all that. But I could if in the future I had like no irons in the fire, which is highly unlikely.
Exactly. Yeah,
it'd be cool to put something together.
I'd have to.
We should do, if we get a shop in the South, we should just build like a collaboration.
Absolutely.
Just go halves on parts and everything.
E36 or something. Easy.
Yeah. Or even
it's a perfect chassis.
If you don't, if we go south or we get down to the Chattanooga area, we're only an hour and a half to Coral Works. We could get into an S13.
Oh,
and just have we could get into like a clapped out parts car that they had.
Absolutely.
Just, you know what I mean?
There's plenty there.
Oh yeah, and Yeah,
Yep.
and just make it look cool. Put some cool like Japanese kid on it,
Oh man, yeah.
and go
Yeah,
halves. Then we don't
absolutely.
have now we're not spending all the money on a drift car.
Yeah,
Equal seat time,
exactly.
equal wrench time.
Yep, we both fix it. Sounds good to me, man.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
All right, we're building a drift car.
Koru, we're coming for you.
Yeah. Get ready, Greg. We're coming.
Yeah.
Only a few more. Jack Ulp, JAKULP says, will you be trailering or driving the Century to H2O? Can't wait to see you there this year. Yeah, man. Hopefully we run into you. I mean, the car will not be hard to miss on the strip. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
More than likely the only black long wheelbase Century on the strip.
Takes up most of the strip.
It will. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'll get beached trying to get into every. Because yeah, if for those of you who haven't been to Ocean City, the strip is below, like, all other grade. Like, in order to get, for the most part, most of the strip seems like you have to pull up and off the strip to get up into parking lots. And it's like aggressive.
Yeah.
And even on air suspension at full lift, that car is so long. It's got a lot of underbelly that's going to drag.
Yeah.
I say I get it beached and stuck at least once down there.
Yeah, probably.
Because I'm not going to hit.
You
I'm
never
not gonna,
air up.
I don't air up. I need to in that car, though, because that car will literally become a seesaw.
I know.
Because it's so long.
Yeah.
Even stock height, it was like dragging exhaust on certain.
Yeah, a few times I remember.
But, so no, I'm going to be trailering it. I've done the driving in that car. I've earned the trailer from here to eternity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we drove that thing, as you guys know, from Seattle, Washington, all the way clear across America.
Yeah.
Not in a straight line either.
No.
So and we did it without any mechanical issues in a car that doesn't have any parts available in America and not a lot of parts available in Japan either. So I'm not going to push my luck. I'm sure it would handle the drive just fine, but I'm going to trailer it. And I've got an enclosed trailer now, so I'm going to detail it. It's going to go in the trailer, and it's going to come out of the trailer in Ocean City detailed.
Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a few others we kind of skimmed over, but we're at 2 hours.
Nice.
So that's not bad.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. This is it's like similar topics that we've covered in other podcasts, but for some reason, maybe it's just because we spent so much time talking about K cars. That could be why I'm so excited about this episode.
Yeah, that's most likely it. That's probably where you're going to have to name this episode too.
The K car.
K cars and caravans.
To skim over this question, because I'm scrolling around, Low Boat, looks like O with a 0, Low Boat, says, will you ever build a VIP Slam sedan besides the Century? I mentioned this one to you earlier.
Yeah.
I actually, in 2014, I think, I actually bought a Y33 Infiniti Q45 and did a Nissan SEMA conversion on it. So I found the rare gold SEMA badges, the SEMA V8 badges, the C-Pillar, Nissan SEMA. So for those of you who don't know, first of all, Infiniti in North America is Nissan. So just like Toyota started Lexus for the US market, well, and Europe, obviously. But Toyota didn't want to send their flagship cars here branded as Toyota because they were afraid that Americans weren't going to buy them, fearing that they were as EcoBox level as previous Toyotas that we received here. As with Datsun, who turned into Nissan, we had the Datsun 510, we had, the Datsun 620 pickup trucks, and then all of a sudden Nissan wants to send the president, their SEMA, all the Infiniti level cars. Nissan knew they weren't going to sell those cars branded as Nissans.
Right.
So they started Infiniti to make it seem like a higher luxury brand.
Yep.
So anyway, what I wanted to do is I bought a Y33. Backing up, I had a G50 Q45, which was the Nissan President in Japan.
Yeah.
But I drove that car bone stock. I had all these grand plans for it. But I didn't. I was able to flip the car for like double what I had into it, bone stock.
Yeah.
It was a rust-free Colorado car. I was like, okay. And that's the car I drove to Nashville. I drove, for any females listening, this was a Valentine's Day surprise for the girl I was dating in Nashville at the time. I had a friend from Mississippi that was interested in buying the Q45, the G50, and kind of a hard to find car around here, especially rust-free. But you never see G50 first-gen Q45s driving around, ever. And when you do, if you know what they are, you're like, look.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine from Mississippi was interested in the G50. And he had cash. He was ready to go. I want it. I know what it is. I've been looking for one, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm having a hard time, like trying to justify the time to fly up there to buy it and come back.
Of course.
So I was dating this girl in Nashville. and obviously trying to see her as often as possible. There's a 20-hour car drive, or obviously by plane usually. So I said, well, and this was the week before Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day was on a Thursday night this year, I think. This was 2014. Yeah, 14. And this was the winter that my dad and I were building the Corvair.
Yeah.
So I had this G50 in the middle. That's why I didn't dive into this project, because I was in the middle of the Corvair project.
Gotcha.
So we weren't going to see each other for Valentine's Day, because I was in New Hampshire, and I'd been in Nashville, like, I don't know, a couple weeks prior or something. And so I told my buddy Terry, who was going to buy the G50, I said, well, how far, I forgot where in Mississippi he was, but I said, how far are you from Nashville? And he's like, well, actually like a 4-hour bus ride. And I'm like, all right, you give me X. Can't remember if I put a little bit on for like delivery or whatever. I said, if you give me, I can't even remember what I sold the car for, but I said, if you give me this, can you meet me this weekend in Nashville? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, well, my girlfriend lives there. It's Valentine's Day on Thursday. And this was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
This was that Tuesday.
Oh, dang.
And I said, I literally said, this is how, like, I'm surprised I haven't told this story on the podcast. This is how, like, I love living my life. Like, I love just hitting the road and just going.
Yeah.
So this was like Tuesday night. He said, I'm in, but, you know, I can't, I don't know if I can get up there like any weekend soon. Him and his wife had like a newborn, or I don't know if she was maybe a couple years old, but he had his hands full.
Yeah, of course.
So I said, well, can you pick it up Saturday or Sunday in Nashville? And he's like, yeah, I could. And I was like, all right, my girlfriend lives in Nashville. Thursday's Valentine's Day. I'm going to leave tomorrow morning. It's a 20-hour drive.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave tomorrow morning and get there for Valentine's Day to surprise her. So if you've got Saturday off, just come up. Saturday. Just drive up Saturday, 4 hours, and get the car, and I'll book a one-way flight home. Yeah. And he's like, okay, it's perfect. It worked out perfect for him. Him and his wife and his daughter like drove up, or I think they took. Maybe they did take the bus up, all three of them. Regardless, they came up to Nashville for the weekend to just kind of enjoy Nashville.
Nice.
So my girlfriend was like, at the time, I can't remember what we were talking about. I hit the road. I didn't tell her. You know, I'm just going to show up.
Yeah,
I'm just going to show up for Valentine's Day in Nashville, Tennessee. And so I hit the road. And it might have been midday Wednesday. I was going to drive through the night Wednesday night and arrive for Thursday. And so I hit the road and made it through Vermont. I remember I was going across upstate New York. I was in like the Syracuse area when she was like getting ready for bed or something. And she was like, well, what are you up to? And I remember I didn't lie about a single thing. Yeah. I was like, oh, not much. Just listen to some music, because I was.
Yeah, in the car.
And she was like, oh, you know, what'd you do this evening or something? And I was like, and we were just texting. I mean,
I went for a drive.
Well, I was like, well, I tinkered on the car for a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Because I did. I was like checking all the fluids and making sure it was good for a drive to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so then like later on in the evening, you know, I might have been near Buffalo at this point, and she was like, well, you know, I'm heading to bed. And I was like, yeah, I might get some shut eye here pretty soon too. I'm feeling a little tired.
Yeah.
And I did. I stopped in like Erie for like a quick nap and drove through the night. And she said this whole time she used to go to the gym before she went to work. She didn't have to get to work until like 10 a.m. So she'd go to the gym from like 8 to 9 or something, come home, shower, and then go to work or something like that. And so I wanted to make sure she was going to be home, because I wanted to get there before she went to work, because I don't want to just show up while she was at work and it's like, well, I'm here, so see you at 4 or 5 or whenever she got out of work. So I was like, are you planning on going to the gym tomorrow morning? And she was like, I was thinking about it. And I said, well, I didn't want to spoil anything, but I sent you something for Valentine's Day, and it's going to show up tomorrow morning.
Yeah. That's perfect.
I said, this is a true story too, by the way.
Yeah.
And I said I sent you something, because I was trying to figure out how to make sure she was going to be at her apartment Thursday morning. Because at the time I was hammering. Like, I stopped for a quick nap, but I don't even know if I stopped for a nap. I might have just hammered the whole way, and that's more than likely what I did. But the time I left, you know, after prep and all that stuff, hammering straight, I was going to arrive at like 8 a.m. Thursday morning, and I was like, oh, and she had to leave by like I don't know, 9 or 9:30 or something to get to work.
Right.
So I was like, well, I overnighted you something. which was obviously me, but she didn't know this. I said, I overnighted you something, and it should be there tomorrow morning, but you have to sign for it, so you have to be at the apartment. And luckily, she lived in an apartment to where she, like, more than likely wasn't gonna just let a package sit on her doorstep because there's other foot traffic around.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, yeah, I could skip the gym tomorrow and hang out at the house. Like, oh, you shouldn't have. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're so cute. Like, whatever. Meanwhile, I'm in upstate New York, like wide-eyed, sipping coffee,
Yeah.
like, or guzzling coffee, like, don't break down.
Yeah.
And
down.
hammering through the night. And so, yeah, so I was just like, well, it's supposed to be there in the morning. Tracking looks like it'll be there like tomorrow morning. And she didn't even say, like, how do you know it's gonna be here in the morning? Like, other than just like expected delivery for this date. She didn't say it. So I was like, I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna play off this. And so anyway, she goes to bed, and I hammer through the night, because at that point I get into Cleveland, Ohio, head straight down through Cincinnati, Columbus, down into Louisville, Kentucky. I'm on 65 at this point, I-65, heading straight down into Nashville. Get through Bowling Green, Kentucky in the morning. That was the morning. That night, that Wednesday night, is when the sinkhole opened up in the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Because I'm driving down through Louisville, and Bowling Green, Kentucky's on the Tennessee border, southern Kentucky. I'm literally on I-65. I might have to fact check this. It was like February 12th or 13th that sinkhole opened up. It might have been a couple days before I went down there or something, but I hadn't heard about it. My buddy Eric, who used to live here with me, actually sent me an article like on Facebook, like an article about a sinkhole opening up, and I'm coming into Bowling Green. I'm like, dude, I'm literally, and the Corvette Museum is right off I-65.
Yeah.
Like the sign is on I-65. It's this gigantic Corvette Museum sign. You can't miss it. And I was like a half hour out from Bowling Green. He sent me that. I'm like, no way. So when I went by, there was like cranes out there and stuff, and they were already suiting up to go after those cars that were down in the cavernous void of the earth.
Geez.
And so, cool little side story there. But at this point, the sun's coming up. It's like 7 a.m. and I'm talking to her again, and I'm like, I'm looking at the time, and it's gonna be tight. And Nashville's infamous for commute traffic.
Right.
Like the way the highway system works, there's no highway that goes straight through Nashville. It's a series of like connecting like I-40, I-24, I-65. They all like converge on the city, and they all merge and go around a loop around the city. So there's just, because of all the merging, it's just gridlock all around the city.
Oh, yeah,
it's just freaking bad.
Yep.
I think Nashville has the most interstate interchanges in the shortest amount of space in any U.S. city or something like that. So it's like it's just a freaking circus every weekday morning and evening. So I'm coming in, and the problem is she lives on the south side of Nashville. I'm coming in from the north. I'm like, I have to get through this whole mess around this ring road on like a Thursday morning. It's like 7 a.m. And so I'm texting her, and I was like, package might be a little late. You're sure you're not going to the gym, right? She's like, no, I'll stick here. I'm like, okay, when do you think you leave for work?
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm coming down into, you can't even see the city skyline yet. And I'm in traffic, like gridlock almost.
Geez.
And I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to botch it up because of this traffic. And she's going to go off to work. And I mean, it'd still be a surprise. But I was like working for her front door. I'm like, I got to get there. And, so I worked my way through traffic, and this whole time I'm texting her, and I was like, it's almost there. Like, she's not like, how do you know where exactly this truck
you have
is?
GPS on this thing?
And she wasn't a dummy. She just probably didn't. She's probably just like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Excited to see it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Or just like, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah.
So I get around, I fight through, I get around to the south side of Nashville, and I'm like antsy at this point. I'm like driving through the neighborhoods. Like, I know exactly where her apartment is. Like, I'm hitting every red light on the way there.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the time. It's like 10 of 9. And I'm like, and it's like 9 a.m. It's like after 9. And I said, I paid extra for like the minute by minute tracking. I know exactly where the package is.
Paid extra.
So anyway, without dragging the story on and on and on, because we had a bunch of like other like real tight text messages where I was like, it's like, he's in your apartment complex. And so anyway, I got there. Her car was still there. And I was like, thank God. Because I figured she'd just be like, no, whatever. It'll be here when I get back.
Yeah.
And so I got there. Car made it. And this was obviously in February. So this car, what once was champagne colored, was now white. Because I just drove to the Northeast.
Yeah.
Just salt thing.
Yeah.
I've got a photo of it actually in her apartment complex, covered, just white, just covered. And so I went up to her door, put my thumb on the sight hole, knocked on the door.
Yeah.
And she opened the door, and I was like, "Happy Valentine's Day!" And she was just like, she didn't even say it. I think she was just like, "Are you kidding?"
Oh my god.
Or she might have just said, "What?" I can't even remember, because I said, I might have said something super like nerdy, like special delivery or something stupid. Yeah, I'll never forget the look on her face. She was just like had.
Yeah.
What?
All right, I'm going home now.
Yeah, like she couldn't process it.
I know.
I was standing there.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I gave myself boyfriend award of the year that year.
Yeah, man.
Because I
well deserved.
drove to the night. I mean, that relationship only lasted a couple more months anyway, but
hey man, you put the effort in.
Yeah, well, it's not that she didn't. Things just didn't work out.
No, I know.
I mean, and I know I don't talk to her much, but she's one of my sister's best friends. I mean, she's a great girl.
Yeah,
great girl. We just didn't mesh. That's all.
Yeah.
She's married to a dude named John now.
That's
it worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a great girl, talented, and super grounded. We just didn't mesh, and it was almost like I don't want to say it was a mutual split, but it just wasn't working out for me. And
Yeah,
I knew I
it.
wasn't going to move to Nashville anytime soon. It was tough at the beginning, but yeah, I think shortly afterwards she realized too. It's like, so we're cordial. She was at my sister's wedding a couple years ago. Obviously,
Yeah.
that was the first time we got a chance to and she was married to that John dude. He was there. He walked around. I was there with the Corvair the next morning. I took the E23 to the wedding, obviously. I had to take the 7 Series to the wedding. But the next day she was having like a brunch. They rented this whole farm out. They had these beautiful farmhouses and stuff, and they were doing this big breakfast. So I showed up with the Corvair, and her husband John was like up there like asking me all sorts of. He's not really into cars, but he's like really into that car.
Yeah,
of
course.
And what's funny is when I was building that car, like she like wasn't stoked that I was spending more time because she wasn't into cars,
Yeah,
But I was spending
I know.
more time in the garage than like talking to her on the phone. Or when she came out here once, she stayed. My sister was here too at the same time, and she was staying with my parents up the street. So she stayed up there with my sister at my parents' house. And so I'd get up early. I'd get up at like 6 or 7 and go work on the Corvair. And this was after Solo. I'd already made the trip. That's the reason why I went to Nashville on the way to Solo with the Corvair later on. But there was I don't remember what was going on. Good Guys Car Show was coming up or something pretty soon. So I was working on the car. And so she'd text me like 8 a.m. like, "Go, I'm up and like ready to go if you want to get coffee." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be up in like a half hour. I'm tinkering on the car." And she was not happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Can't you work on it when I'm not here?" And I was like, "Ooh, this isn't going to work." Like, this is not. Like, I'm going to be up there in like 30 minutes. Relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it's just funny that like I thought about that when John came out, her husband. He's like, "Oh, this car's so cool, man." I'm like, "Yeah." Ashley wasn't that stoked on it when we were together. She was like, she hated
hilarious.
that. She hated that piece of junk.
Yeah.
But not really.
No.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But yeah, so Valentine's Day award of the year, I gave that one to me.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Selfishly gave it to me.
Deserved.
But anyway, how do we get on that? Oh, VIP cars. So after that,
Just a quick bunny trail, that's all.
Oh.
So yeah,
You're talking about broken relationships and heartbreaks and VIP cars.
Yeah.
I ended up with a Y33, which was the second generation Q45, which
Yes.
was the Nissan SEMA. And so anyone who was hanging on listening to the SEMA story, and then I started talking about an ex-girlfriend that I drove through the night to go see for Valentine's Day. And the sale of the car went through, and oddly enough, Terry and his wife moved to Colorado.
Oh, really?
And that car was from Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
So they drove the car. They drove the Q45 to Colorado.
That's great.
They ended up back out there. Terry did BC coilovers, wheels, exhaust, not full VIP build, but slammed it on like 18s with a loud exhaust. Like that VH45 V8 has a great sound with a 30 exhaust. So the car did live a decent life until he lost the oil pump and kept driving it and lost the motor.
Oh,
pulled
damn.
the coils, pulled the wheels, and scrapped the car.
Yeah.
It was really too bad.
That sucks.
But I remember him messaging me and he was like, "Oh, I got an oil light on, but I've got oil level. I've got oil in the car." And I was like, "I don't know, man. Might be something else going on there." And I got back to him like a day later. He's like, "Oh, the light went off." I was like, "Oh, okay." Then like next week, it was a photo of it on a flatbed with like the stock wheels on. I was like, "What happened?" He goes, "Oh, the oil pump went."
Yeah.
I'm like, guess that's probably why the oil light was on.
Yeah.
The top end was not receiving oil.
Yeah, something like
But
that.
that's something I would do. I mean, the light went off. I still got oil. Well, run it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I had the Y33 and I went deeper with that car myself. I did a full S13 and S14 suspension conversion on that car.
Yep.
And in 2015, I think at this point, like I was telling you earlier, I only knew of like stateside. I only knew of like a couple cars that had done that swap. It wasn't incredibly involved. There was some machining. I did like CNC cutting machine top hats front and rear because the S13 coilovers couldn't mate to a Y33. The 3-bolt pattern for the strut assemblies were larger for the Y33 than for the S13. But yeah, I ran control arms, tension rods, 5-lug S13 hubs, tie rods, tie rod ends, rear S14 upper and lower control arms. All adjustable, so you can adjust all your camber and stuff.
Yeah.
But the comparison photo between the front Y33 suspension and S13 was like, it was like a 2-liter soda bottle to this like Scotch glass.
Yeah,
it was like, it was wild.
Yeah.
And that car, with the helper springs in, with the purchase all the way up, like was like tucking tire front and rear. Like that car bellied out.
Skated. Yeah.
So, and I did the full SEMA conversion badge wise. I did the hood mascot. I dug. And I think I've told you this. So I found, as I mentioned before, I found the gold badge set.
Yeah.
Most of them were all silver.
Right.
Chrome. But my car was a champagne colored, like gold car. Well, champagne, tannish. And I wanted the gold badges. So I found the C-Pillar SEMA V8 badges in gold. I found the Nissan badges in gold. And I found the hood mascot. Like the actual like leaf, the big leaf emblem with the spring in it. So it's like flexible from the base.
Yeah, yeah.
In gold on like Japan eBay for like, I don't know, $150 maybe. And I was like, sold.
Yep.
And I'd read on some forums a lot of these guys that were doing like the hood mascots and like the SEMA badges and the SEMA trunk lid and stuff and the grill and all the different SEMA stuff, that they were just double side taping, like automotive, like 3M double side taping the hood mascot to the hood. So they didn't have to drill any holes or get it wrong or whatever. But in order to do that, the leaflet had a stud that came down on the bottom of the base, which had to go through a relief cut in the hood.
Right, yeah.
So if you were going to double side tape it and not drill a hole in the hood, you had to basically cut that off and make the leaflet like mascot itself and the base like one piece.
Yeah.
And so then it wasn't functional or anything like that. And I had a gold one and I was like, this, like from what I've heard, these are really hard to find at the time, at least, and maybe still. So I'm like, I'm going to drill holes. I'm going to mount this thing the way a SEMA should be mounted. So now it's like, now where do I put it on the hood?
Yeah, exactly.
So I dove.
Where do I drill the hole?
I dove deep on the internet, and I don't even remember where I was. I was like on some Nissan forum, and then found a link to some other Nissan forum, and then I was on like some Q45 only forum with a bunch of nerds in there, and like found some dude. I don't know if he was stateside or not. Maybe in England. I don't know. I don't even know if that car was available in England. But regardless, found some guy that had an actual SEMA, and they're not eligible for import in America. So, this might have been like a friend in Japan that pulled measurements for him.
Yeah.
But he had pulled measurements from the grill up, from the corner of the headlights over, from the hood body lines in. He had like 6 different intersecting measurement points intersecting where each of the 3, if I remember correctly, 3 holes were supposed to be drilled for the hood mascot.
That's amazing.
OEM like hood mascot placements for a Y33.
Yeah.
And I
That's
copied
amazing.
and paste, Control P, print. How do I start a new tab? Control P. That's print, Michael.
Not if the printer's
not
not
hooked up. You're treading in some real dangerous territory here. Okay, The Office.
Welcome.
Anyway, so I found OEM placements for that hood mascot, and I drilled all the holes and I mounted it, and yeah, I was super proud about that. Even though it was like something super small, I'm glad that I took the patience to like look for where
the rabbit hole item placement.
And so I didn't end up seeing that car all the way through either, because as I was getting to the point of like wheels, I did exhaust. My dad and I built an exhaust for it, nothing too loud. And I was getting ready to fit wheels and possibly radius arches. I was like, all right, this thing needs to be radius. I hadn't done any of that before, and I was like, all right. And this was originally a Florida car that lived its life in Tennessee, and now it was with me, and it was rust free, just like the G50.
Yep, super clean.
And I decided, I'm like, all right, this is the car I'm going to like do some body work to. I'm going to radius the arches on this thing, run like 19s, high radius, and I didn't get to it though, because my buddy Chris Serrano, who I didn't know at the time in New Jersey, was looking for a Y33 in the color I had and was ultimately going to do an S13 14 suspension conversion in, which mine already had.
Yeah, exactly.
So he had put out a post on Instagram saying he was looking for a Y33, and someone said, you should check out John's, tagged me. He came to me and he goes, hey, is this something you'd be willing to sell? And I'm like, yep. Actually, no, I take that back. Now that I'm saying it, I remember what the scenario was. I had literally just listed it for sale on Instagram.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the posts were literally within an hour of each other. Like, I posted it for sale. An hour later, I didn't follow Chris. We didn't know each other at the time. But an hour later, or around the same time, Chris posted a photo on Instagram of a Y33 saying, looking for a Y33.
Yep.
Someone said, hey, John's selling his.
Right.
He contacts me, and I realized that his post was literally like the same time I posted mine. and he was like,
Fate.
he's like, I wanted it in that color. I was going to do the SEMA badge conversion. I was going to do the S13 conversion. And we talked price, and my buddy Ramon drove him up, Ramon.
Yeah.
Drove him up from New Jersey. We met in Boston, and and then he did wheels and kind of took the car to the next level.
Yeah,
which is really
that's
cool.
awesome.
And as you know, he recently listed for sale again, and I almost bought it back.
I know, yeah.
He wanted short money for the car because he just bought a new car, and he's got a Jeep and a couple other. He's got an old Volvo 240. He was stocked up for projects. He's like, I just want to sell it. I don't care if I take a loss on it. And I was like, ooh, he wanted less for it than what I sold it to him for 5 years ago. And I was like, I should go buy that car, enjoy it again for a summer, and sell it for what I'm buying it back for.
Yeah.
You know, just have like a summer reunited with the car and sell it. But he ultimately was able to get more than what he was willing to sell it to me for, to somebody who started following me on Instagram when I was building that car.
Oh, that's right.
And wanted to buy it when I sold it, but didn't have the money, and watched Chris buy it out from under him, basically. He'd never reached out to me, but basically watched someone else buy the car, started following Chris on Instagram because he was the new owner of the car. 5 years later, Chris lists it for sale. He puts the stars together, and I dragged my feet, which turned out to be fake because I was like, I don't know if I should buy another project. This was literally like a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Like, I've got the Century. I need to focus on that. So I finally called Chris, and I was like, hey, man, like, I don't think I'm going to pick up that car. He goes, I got a kid that's actually coming to get it. And I was like, good. And he said he was able to get more than what he was justifying. I was like, well, that's good. And then, so he made a post and tagged the kid who bought it. And that's how I know, because I contacted him. I'm like, hey, man, I used to own that car. He goes, I know, I was following you when you were building that car, and told me that he wanted to buy it. Chris bought it. He started following Chris because he wanted to follow the progression of the car.
Yeah.
5 years later, Chris listed for sale, and he finally obtained the car.
Man, that's fate.
And he literally told me, he goes, he's like, I've got so many plans. I'm going to go like to the wall with this car. And I'm like,
Heck yes.
That's awesome.
It's perfect when something like that comes together.
Yeah, it was such a cool story. That kind of stuff is so rad when like a car that you I almost gave up on it. I was able to sell it and make a profit on it.
Right.
But I wasn't quite done with it. And I was like, well, might as well. I'll sell it, make some money on it, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Even though it kind of bugged me, I didn't get a chance to like complete my vision for the car.
Yeah.
So it's cool that it's with somebody who has wanted it for 5 years now.
Yeah, that's
It's really
pretty
cool.
crazy. Yeah.
But, well, we can end there, man. We're 2.5 hours in now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sounds good to me.
Yeah, you got work in the morning. I do too. I've got plenty of work in the morning.
Monday's the late day anyways.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get a slow morning tomorrow. Yeah, any other thoughts? What's next? Wheels? Oh, bags. Don't let me forget before you leave tonight. I'll look on. Yeah, we'll order bags tonight.
Yeah, we'll look at bags.
We'll order airbags for the 190. Get some wheels. I know it'll probably come down to you spending more money than you want to, but in a way, it almost feels good. Like when you're like,
absolutely.
I don't want to spend $2,000 on wheels, but then you do, and you know what's coming. You're like, ooh, I'm glad I pulled the trigger on those.
And the wheels that we talked about earlier, I already saw on the car that didn't fit.
That's right.
So looking at the correct specs,
those wheels will look real good on a 190.
Oh my God, they look so
You probably should just pull the trigger and just figure it out after. You know what I mean?
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have to find some side work down in Ocean City for fuel on the way back. But
Mason will put you to work in Chattanooga.
oh, true. Mason, what's up?
He's saying we got work to do when we get down there.
I know.
He's working on that first gen 4Runner.
That's right. Yeah.
He sent me a photo of a box of like all suspension components. Like
really?
Bushings, tie rod ends, ball joints, like just every just a box full of like.
Okay.
So he'll be deep into that thing.
Gravy work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like bolt-in work.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Cool.
if we're talking gravy work, I mean, he probably would pay you in Oakwood Cafe.
Oh,
Speaking of gravy.
gravy work.
Yeah. Real gravy work. Pun intended.
That is the best pun on this whole podcast.
Happened naturally. Feeling real punny today.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then
I wish
Ocean City.
I wish Raymond wasn't like an hour and 20 minutes away, because I'd be down there more, even though I've got so like an insurmountable work to do here. I'd like to be there, like not only helping out, but like helping like film all that stuff, because I'm kind of in that groove anyway now.
Yeah.
Well, trying
No, I
to be
get
more
it.
in that groove.
I know we're both kind of in crunch mode for getting stuff done.
We're in a little over an hour drive away from each other, so it makes it kind of tough. Like after you're out of work on like a weekday to just like jet down there.
Yeah.
And hammer stuff out. But we'll figure it out. We're gonna get it done one way or another. I appreciate you coming up and helping me on the Ford.
Yeah, of course.
Really wish I'd gotten to the glow plugs today, but I'll probably do that tomorrow maybe.
Yeah, even if there's another, I'm not gonna be straight out every weekend on the Mercedes. If there's another day I have, I'll come up and
if it's nice next weekend, we could try to split up like a 2-day weekend, maybe ride for a little bit, work on some stuff.
Yeah.
Something. I'm going to be here this upcoming weekend for sure. I'll have plenty to do. So
yeah,
we'll figure it out. Limitless_Corey.
Yes, sir.
On Instagram. John, JOHN Ludwick, LUDWICK on Instagram. The Governor's Club, The Rising Sea, Night Laser with a Z, the usual. Thank you so much, guys, for the continued support, for listening. Yeah. I like this episode. This was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
This was fun.
It's been a minute since I've been on one. So
yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Thanks for listening, guys.
As Corey said, bye-bye.
See ya.